Welcome to So You're Kinda a Big Deal, a weekly podcast deep diving into the lives of emerging and established tattoo artists. Listen in as we dig into origin stories, industry hot topics, and what it takes to survive in the world of tattooing. This is Tattoo Shop Talk. Join your hosts Shawn, Hedley, and Dave Allen every week as we host a new guest.
Oh yeah, just the backdrop and stuff. The shop's awesome.
Yeah,
the shop's super nice.
Yeah, not as nice as Burrow.
Fuck, dude, that shop is I haven't been yet.
Yeah,
I gotta check it out.
We should walk over after this, actually.
Is it close?
It's like a kilometer away.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, I was like right away. You feel like you're in an art space. Like you don't feel like you're.
Well, yeah, and I think Stu's really curated it to be like that.
Oh yeah, and the space is special. Like everyone's got their own little rooms, but the rooms are fucking cool.
Right.
And then the art that's on the wall isn't. There's some tattoo art, but it's mostly like big paint, like large scale paintings and everything.
Yeah.
It's a condo, right? So
yeah.
It's got a real nice, I don't know, clean vibe to it. Maybe it feels homey because of that.
Yeah. It's going to be really exciting when all those guys start brewing up over the winter time when they're hobbled together in there. Now that Stace is back too.
I couldn't figure out why they called it the Burrow when it's not underground.
Is a building called the Burrow?
No, it's upstairs. Like it's just, I can't remember what the building's called, but it's upstairs. It's called the Burrow. And there's no downstairs in the itself either.
Weren't you just there?
Yeah.
So why didn't you fucking ask him?
Because we were chatting about other shit. By the time I got in there, fuck, dude.
I was just with this guy, and then the whole time I was wondering.
No,
why he called something.
I didn't say that. I didn't say the whole time. I said I was wondering, and then people showed up, and I was like, "Oh, fuck, shiny." I'm not that deep.
Fantastic. Hi, Lucas.
What's up?
This episode brought to you by this guy.
Good Guy Supply.
One of them.
Super generic beginning, like always, buddy. Just tell everybody who you are and a little bit about how you got to this point. Not the whole story. We'll just do the quick little
The highlights.
and then we'll go deeper into the root.
Lucas Ford, I'm a tattooer and co-owner of Good Guy Supply.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
You're currently tattooing.
so I tattoo about 2 to 3 days a week in the Okanagan at
Hard worker.
Yeah. At the Pins Tattoo, which is Rob's shop in Samanar in the Okanagan. Yeah.
Awesome.
Rob Joe.
Rob Joe.
What? Where'd you start? You started in the Smithers, right?
No, I started in Red Deer actually.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, for some reason.
I started at a shop called Wicked Works in Red Deer.
Wicked Works.
Yeah.
Was it Wicked?
It was pretty wicked. Yeah.
Was work spelled with an E?
Or within a Z.
No, he missed the boat on
Missed
both of
opportunity.
those. Yeah. Yeah. No. Mentoring
The two dots under the U.
Umlauts.
Yeah. No, I kind of just fell into tattooing when I moved to Red Deer. I moved there with my oldest boy's mom for her to go to school. She went to college at RDC, and I got hooked up with the guy that taught me how to tattoo just through some friends of my dad's, and I was expressing interest in getting tattooed, and my dad's buddy hooked me up with Eddie to get a tattoo, and it was, we just kind of made fast friends, and one thing led to another over the years, and I made, started hanging around the shop, and it was just a place to go and chill after work, and I was kind of just one of those people that was a bit of a pain in the ass for a lot of the time for him, I think, and it was friendly at the same time though, but it was
It seems to be a reoccurring theme from back then, and maybe it's still that way, but you hang around enough, you're a nuisance enough, you run enough errands.
Yeah,
you're going to be a tattooer.
Yeah,
I have a girl that has a lot of work by Erin Garand. I just tattooed her. Cool young girl, she works at the local art store where most of us would. She's been coming to my shop now for a few months.
Yeah.
Every day off, Saturdays, and just drawing. And fuck, she can draw fast, man. Like she can. Like I'll look over and be like, "What are you gonna work on?" She's like, "I don't really know." Boom, she'll just do 2 big, like 16 by 20, like gypsy faces, and she'll be like, "I'll paint those later." And then she'll draw a flash sheet and ink it and get it all. Yeah. But she's there like always. right? Not a pain in my ass, like, because I always say that, like, come by and hang out. Nobody ever does. Yeah. She does, and it's like, if she sticks around long enough, I don't really have a choice, right? Like, because she's making it.
Yeah, she's proving it.
Yeah,
to a point where it's like, okay,
the right people fall into the right place.
100%.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you?
I think I was 23.
Okay. Yeah. And then, how did you actually lock in the apprenticeship?
Well, so I'd been getting tattooed a little bit by Ed and one of the other guys that worked there, and I don't know what happened that led to it. I don't have the best memory for this kind of stuff, but I know the guy that was working, whose place I ended up replacing, got fired, and he was like a dude that came along and was like, I think he was locked up for a while, and he did a bunch of work when he was like in jail, and it was just an easy hire for him back then. An ass to put in the chair in the shop, right? Like, yeah. And so he fired that guy. I can't remember what for. It doesn't really matter, but he hired two of us. There was myself and a female artist that was local around town, who was friends. I think one of his friends' girlfriends or something like that. And he was a DJ and did a few other things. And so he basically brought us both on. He's like, look, I'm giving you both the chance. One of you is going to make it. One of you is not. So it's up to you. Do your thing.
Smart.
Yeah, that is smart.
Damn.
So I was still working construction at the time. I used to run an insulating crew up in northern BC for a company up there. When we moved out to Alberta, at that point I was kind of chasing work. I was, on unemployment, off unemployment. That was just after a lot of the softwood treaty stuff had gone through and kind of taken apart the forestry kind of sector, which my whole town relied on up in Smithers, where I grew up. And it was just at the point where I was like, we're going to move. I'm going to go find some work. Maybe I'll end up in the oil fields. I'll do that. I'll make some money for a while. Got out to Alberta. And once we got there, my partner at the time started school. She had everything all lined up. That was all going. She got a job right away. She was serving at night, going to school during the day. I started figuring out real quick that I didn't know shit about the oil field. I didn't have any tickets. I didn't have Guinness. I didn't have any of that stuff. I still had all my tools from my trade that I was doing in BC. So it was just like, you know what? I'll go dig around and check out a few of the guys that do that around here, a couple of the companies that do it, because construction was booming there.
Yeah.
And I'll just do that for a little while and figure it out and find out where I want to be. Well, that meant I was then not working for a company anymore. I was subcontracting to them. So the money was like 3 times as good as I was used to. And next thing you know, it was, a year and a half, 2 years later, I was still doing it and just working my ass off and making good money. So it's one of those things that you kind of get stuck in.
Yeah.
Easy money. And I was good at it and knew the landscape well. And so I finally had enough money that I could start getting tattoos and afford to get not just little bullshit things, and actually get proper sized stuff that I've been liking for years, but just could never afford to do. I had a few from, growing up north. I'd collected a few over the years, but I didn't have anything substantial at all. And that's when I started making friends, got in to get a tattoo by Ed, made friends with them, started hanging around, and I got hurt. I fell off a ladder or something like that, and I think I rolled my ankle really bad, and I was off I rolled my ankle and pulled some tendons or something, but I was off for 2 months. My job was A, you're on ladders, B, you're on stilts, or C, you're on foot up and down doing shit. So it was if you can't move around on your feet, you're at home.
Yeah.
So that was really good.
What about your fucking sermon?
You want me to walk over on you guys?
That was really good timing, because that basically happened as soon as I was offered that opportunity to come into the shop. And it was basically at that time I was looking at I would start work super early so I could get done early enough so I could get at least a few hours in at the end of the day at the shop, hang around, absorb as much as I could. And then I just stopped working weekends and I was at the tattoo shop as much as I could be. Just as much as I could be. So then when I got hurt, it was like, okay, well, I'm not going to sit at home. And I just started going to the shop, and I was there every day, and I did as much as I could. I drew as much as I could. I watched my mentor making needles. I scrubbed tubes for him. I did like all the extra shit that I like didn't ask to be told to do stuff. I just did as much as I could and tried to figure out how I could
make yourself useful.
Yeah, as much as possible, because I was like, I have this opportunity. The door's open.
Yeah.
And if I fuck it up, like, the door's closed. So.
It's no secret Dave and I have a good guy connection, but we have a great relationship with many respected suppliers. Working with Lucas Ford at Classic Tattoo, I saw firsthand the blood, sweat, and stress he went through building Good Guy. Creating products for your peers is no easy task. With many to critique any small missteps, including myself, tattooer owned and family operated since day one. With Lucas, Rob, and Natalie at the helm, you know exactly what you are getting. High quality products, fair prices, and excellent customer service. Shop, support, Good Guy.
So I just, busted my ass for those couple of months, and towards the end of it, it was like, he's like, well, you've been here a lot, so let's go. Yeah.
Sweet. And then how long were you there?
I was probably tattooing. That was in the early summer of 2000, and I was actively tattooing by the end of the year. So.
And who were you working with there? Craig Lewis at that shop, or was that
Corey Lewis?
Corey Lewis.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Sorry, Corey.
Yeah, Corey's out in Winnipeg now.
Yeah.
He's got his own shop out there. And Jesse Dolphin was there at the time.
Oh,
Jesse was kind of doing the same thing. He was still on the rigs, and he was like, he'd go out and do his hitch, and then he'd tattoo. A lot of the times he was like still working, out of his like kind of private gig at home. And he was finally at one point, he was like, just come work at the shop. Stop. He's like, you're getting all your shit through me anyways. You're having time anyways. Just come and work here.
Yeah.
So then we all worked there together at that time. And I think it was the three of us for the last couple, like, year or so, that we were all there. And then shit just kind of went sideways at the shop. Mentor, he split up with his wife at the time. Their lives fell apart. He got he was always kind of one of those dudes that was in and around all the not most desirable places and people, and I think he kind of glorified being a bit of a gangster and a hard ass a lot, and he just wasn't very good at it. And he also, I guess, drugs kind of came into it and got a hold of him pretty good, and came to the point where we decided it was time for us to do a little intervention with him and be like, yo, we can't stay here and support this kind of lifestyle. You can do whatever you want. We love you, but we're going to go if you're not going to take care of yourself.
Figure it out.
And take care of the shop. So.
Totally. It's tough when the key person in the shop that's running everything is dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make it an environment that everybody else wants to work in or feel safe.
Well, and by that point, we were running it.
Yeah.
It was just, he was non-existent at that point.
Just taking out of the shop.
Yeah. And not to speak poorly of him or anything. Everybody's life takes twists and turns and shit happens. And, it is what it is. But, So we ended up...
At least you guys actually presented
an option.
right? Most guys don't. Most guys just be like, stop giving a cut.
Yeah.
Some would just fuck off, down the street or whatever, right? So you guys definitely.
And we were all friends, So that was a good kind of glue that kept things together and made it a good thing, at least when we had to take care of that. But,
Is that when you opened Classic?
Yeah. So
And that was in the house?
No, so it was up in it was a spot called Oriole Park in Red Deer, which was it was like this there was a gas station and a drugstore and a liquor store, little strip mall kind of thing. we ended up scooping this spot that used to be a dentist office. So it was like
Perfect.
It was perfect. It had rooms built into it already. It had a front counter. It had all the like file areas for all the dental stuff. It was like, and it was built nice. It was like all trimmed and all that kind of stuff. It was a
Just
good
need some
spot.
fucking tatty pictures up on the walls.
Yeah.
And it's good to go.
Yeah. So that worked out well, and I went in on that with a friend of the family who is a piercer, who actually used to work with us at Wicked Works for a few years, and I know her from growing up years ago. She was friends with my parents from years back, so it was kind of cool that we came together later in life, and things transpired into us owning a shop together. So we essentially didn't own the shop together. We kind of shared space. She had her body piercing business. I had the tattoo shop business in together.
Yeah.
It was just the two of us when we started out. And Corey came to work with me, I think it was probably 6 months or a year after we opened the shop, in and around that time. And it was the two of us for quite a while. And then we kind of just filled it out from there. You know, we were in that spot for, I think I had that spot for about 3 or 4 years. And lease came to an end, and it was time to find a new spot because we were looking at a big hike in cost. The guy that owned the building had no interest in, he didn't really give two shits about tattooing. He just cared about the money that was coming in the door. And, you know, he was very rigid on the price that he wanted for the building. So it was like, take it or leave it. And so we were like, well, we're leaving it. We'll find something else. And that's when I moved into the little house.
Gotcha.
Which was right downtown Red Deer. And that's now where the Service Canada building is. They crushed it.
Oh, did they?
And the house beside it and built like a big
Oh,
government
crazy.
building there. Yeah.
That was a cool little shop.
Yeah. That was my favorite one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cozy.
I got to be there for 1 month.
Yeah, that's right too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, because
cool.
I started with Lucas. I started there, and he was building the new space.
Yeah, that house was rad. I was always like, I think it was probably about 700-800 square feet, maybe max. And there was this weird dude that rented the basement.
Small?
Yeah.
Oh, it was tiny. Yeah.
It was
Like
small.
you said, the one room with Andy in it, then you and
Yeah.
Beans in the other room.
Yeah.
There was a front area, good guy was like 2 closets.
In the back room,
Yeah.
which was moved there from my home. Because it was one cabinet for a while at my house when I very, very first started doing like needles and shit.
Yeah.
I just remember being like, I've never seen this many fucking needles in my life. And it was just like,
It was like the boot room basically
Yes.
at the side of the house.
My first day at Classic, my bench and his bench were touching.
Yeah.
And our clients were laying,
looking
looking at each other. Just like,
Yeah.
enjoy.
I loved that little house though.
Yeah, it was great. I enjoyed it. Actually, it might have been more than a month. It might have been a couple months that we were
I
there.
think so, yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
2 or 3
2 or
tops.
3, and then then we moved to the.
I remember it being hot in there.
Oh Christ.
And I think I was there in the winter.
Yeah.
I
Well,
was
'cause
there
it
few
had
times,
It had a boiler system in it, and I'm pretty sure the kid that rented downstairs, I think he had the thermostat
Oh,
downstairs. So he's in the basement in this house that was built in the 40s, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it might as well have been in a fridge in the driveway. And so he'd crank that thing, and you'd go in there, and it was like a sauna most of the time. It was just cooking. And,
Yeah.
And then summertime, it was the opposite. You turn the AC on in every room because we had those window shakers in every room, and it'd go from 30 to 5.
I think houses make great tattoo shops. You know, every time I get into a house that's been converted to a tattoo shop, I'm always like, I don't know if it's because it feels homey, right?
Yeah.
Naturally, it's just like,
Yeah.
this is great. Yeah.
I think it feels comfortable. It's got a nice like homey vibe to it.
Yeah.
I almost bought a place in Edmonton that was from 1925.
Awesome.
Like super huge, like entryway. It's right where they're putting like the new LRT and stuff like that. But it needed an immediate like 125
Oh, fuck.
into it. Like the foundation had been like they had like boards with like sticks because the foundation was starting to fall. Like it's just bad. Like
And then you're dealing with 100-year-old electrical, 100-year-old plumbing.
and the roof. Like the inspector looked at it and he was just like, every single eaves trough is packed to the top with sand. He's like, and then your roof is probably 4 layers of shingles. They just kept re-roofing on top. He's like, honestly, this roof is probably going to cost you like $45,000 because it's probably going to not just need that, like all the shingles off. It's going to probably need all new wood.
Yeah,
like
and
new
you're going to have to resheet
like,
it, and you're going to get it down to the trusses, and half the trusses are going to be rough.
Yeah,
it's not going to be modern trusses either, right? Like the trusses will have to be fabricated because they're not going to be.
Yeah,
modern
and it was
standard.
it was not like a normal roof, right? Like it's like multi-leveled, and like such a cool
something like
place.
that. Like turns
like
from,
all the inside walls are like actual like plaster.
Oh yeah,
you know, the cool coves and stuff. It would have been amazing, but it would have also been a nightmare because I plan on living in it and then eventually doing the tattoo shop in it.
And it's kind of the same in Red Deer with Autos. I had the opportunity to buy that place. I had just bought my ex out on our house, so I had to refinance the house that I was in at the time to buy her out of it. So it was unfeasible for me to try to take on it. I would never have qualified for another mortgage at that point anyways, right? But I really wanted to try to stay there because I think had I been able to have the whole place and do something with the entire house all together, it could have been awesome.
Yeah,
right? But we ended up moving further into the downtown in Red Deer. We had that spot that we moved into, which
huge.
Was
this place was massive.
Yeah, I thought New Tribe was big when we moved into that in the early 90s. That classic was.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when I, looking at something like that on paper when it's a little, technical drawing in front of you versus walking into it once you finally got it like boarded and starting to tape stuff. It's like, holy shit.
Well, the ceilings are so fucking high, right? Like, it's one thing to have, like, what was it, 1,200 or 2,000 square feet?
I think it was 23 and a half.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
But then when the ceilings are 20 feet high, it's like, it just feels...
the ceilings are so
100,
high.
100 feet deep, and it was 23 feet wide. And then we just, we had our scrub room at the front of the shop, right behind the front counter and the waiting room, and then it was just... we had our stations
Five stations.
Yeah.
It was a cool...
And each station was huge.
It was gigantic.
The shop was big enough that we each had our own controls for the stereo loudness.
And you filled it with art somehow. That was the impressive part. Like,
and up.
Yeah. I still have shit that's like
tucked away,
been unframed, and I've got big drafting, art cases that are just full of prints and originals, and most of the originals I managed to keep framed and have up. A lot of the print art and stuff went with the shop when Lee ended up taking it over.
Yeah,
that's a good sale.
Years later.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But
can you imagine buying that shop and not having any art on the walls? Like, all being gone, you'd be like, put one here, put another one.
Well, when you took it over, it was into the smaller space.
That's right. That's after we moved again.
Oh, shit.
But man, when you cover 100-foot long wall that's 14 feet to the truss with art, that's a lot of art.
That's a lot of art.
Yeah. I know when we moved, I was just like, man, there's a U-Haul trailer full of fucking paintings here. That's crazy.
Yeah. That's when you have to decide. Okay, I'm only keeping an original, and I'm only keeping prints if they're well printed. If it's a fucking old laser copy or any of that shit, fucking.
Oh no, we had a garage sale.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Clients come in and be like,
it just was like we went through all the stuff, and we're like, we're keeping this stuff we don't.
Fucking pay for your move.
And it was like...
They'll pay for your move, probably.
It was great.
Awesome.
And it was like cheap too, right? Like basically it was clients that came through and bought all the art that was like not being transferred to the new space. So they were all stoked because it's stuff they've been looking at and wanted and that kind of thing for years. So a lot of it went really fast, and then whatever was left over, it was just, give it away or whatever.
Crazy.
But and then so I guess we were in that space for, trying to think. I think we were in there for a little over 5 years, and it was kind of the same problem again. Like economically, everything was starting to kind of slide. The downtown started getting pretty rough again. It was lots of people were moving out of the downtown into these more like kind of strip mall scenarios on the newer portions of the city, which was unfortunate because it was prior to that the downtown was really getting cool.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
like when
tons
they
of great stuff.
widened out front of Classic and stuff, and started having the farmers market around there. Like there was cool.
That was a great happenstance too. Like we moved into the building not knowing at all that they were going to redo the whole street, and they did like a complete restructure of the street and really beautified it in front of the shop. So
Nice.
it was like a nice little
Yeah.
happy accident as far as that went.
Yeah.
So eventually you ended up selling Classic.
Yeah.
What was going on there? Like, what's a big move to go from, because you basically went from shop owner to not have a shop.
Yeah, shop owner to guest artist.
Yeah.
It was great. It was awesome, man.
Right?
Yeah.
Some people don't like it, but I know I would love it.
Yeah.
If somebody's coming to take my shop.
I
No
showed a
responsibility.
lot of responsibility when I did that, for sure.
Yeah.
Which equals stress, so.
Yeah,
It's like
well, I
way-
probably had way too much to be responsible for, anyways. I've always had poor controls on that, I guess, taking on more than I should most of the time. So,
I saw it firsthand.
yeah,
You knew Lucas was having a bit of a day when you could smell the sake warmer turn on in the shop.
I forgot about that. Fuck yeah, we did have one of those. in there. Yeah, I had a grab.
Dude, we had a fucking huge Scotch bar. I put all my like Scotch containers up because I was thinking Sacred Heart, when I had like Hot Wheels on the wall, all clients started bringing me Hot Wheels and other things. And I was like, what if that'd work with Scotch? And I put a bunch of my Scotch containers out, and fucking clients started bringing me bottles of Scotch. So we had
It was pretty
a lot of
ridiculous,
Scotch.
honestly.
And then he brought a sake warmer in. And there was just days where it was like, oh, it's 3 o'clock.
Scotch o'clock.
Yeah.
Sake o'clock. The Sugar Shack with Scott Duncan. Yeah. Like 5 o'clock, Scotch o'clock.
Yeah. No, it was more midday.
Yeah. So where were we?
So did you when you sold, did you leave Red Deer?
Yeah, so the sale of the shop actually took place after I had already left Red Deer.
Okay.
That was after we had moved up the streets. We moved from that giant shop into a smaller. It was probably, I think that spot was about 850 square, maybe 900.
Nice.
Again, into like a smaller one room shared kind of space for everyone, right? So we just had stations around the outside, and it was like a large open space again, which I love. That's my favorite way to tattoo, for sure.
Yeah.
Rooms are great. It's nice to have your privacy. We always had screens we could put up in the big space, but it was just nice when you get the whole area like full of people and everybody's kind of chatting and having a good time. Clients, it loosens them up a lot because they can chill with, they might know the guy that's
like when me and Ryan were in the back and you're in the front, we have 70 feet between us.
When
So
we're
it's like
yelling at each other.
it's like we need
What are those guys
intercoms.
talking about?
Yeah, right. So it would literally be like me and Ryan talking, or me and Beans talking, and then it would be like Lucas, and Lee up near the front. It was always pretty disjointed. You literally would have to like grab your coffee, and we had a skateboard that we'd use to like ride across the shop. We'd be like, grab your coffee, I'm going to see Lucas.
I always wanted to put a roll in off the bathroom.
Yes.
Back of the shop, so you could roll in and just skate the whole shop.
All of us with broken elbows.
Yeah.
Nobody working. Matt losing his fucking mind.
Oh, God. We almost drove him crazy anyways.
I think he was crazy to begin with. I think it was our push.
We kind of had it in mind all the time to move back to BC. Jamie grew up in San Bernard, my wife. My mom's been there for, by this point, 26, 28 years now. By the time we moved there, it was like just a little over 20 years, 23 or whatever. And that was kind of the loose plan all the time, was to, move back, get the kids close to grandparents, because both of us, our family's all in BC. So we're separated by a province living that far away. And when you got young kids, you can do it, but it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the idea, was just like get back, get close to family.
Yeah.
By that point, my dad, who helped build Good Guy up and ran it with me in the beginning, it was time for him and his wife to retire. It was getting to the point where it was definitely getting getting close to that point of being too much for them. It was manageable still, but it was like growing into something that you could tell was going to outweigh their ability quickly at that point. And I mean, we were dealing with spatial requirements and, you know, all that kind of stuff at that point. And
sad face, yes.
so
thank you, Dave.
So when Dad retired, that's when Rob and Natalie came into the picture.
Yeah.
They, I essentially bought my dad out of the company, and Rob and Natalie bought into the company, and it's, you know, we've scaled that up to equal ownership over the years. And when they bought in, we moved the warehouse, which used to be in Castlegar, BC, up to Salmon Arm, and it actually moved into the back of Pins. In the old location of Pins Tattoo.
Another massive tattoo shop.
Totally. Which was crazy. Like, Rob had this, like...
He used this much of it?
It was so crazy.
Yeah. You'd walk in and the waiting room was, like...
The biggest part of the shop.
Square feet, and then they tattooed in this, like, front room in it.
Yeah. But, I mean, those were the windows were, right? So it makes sense. But I remember the first time I walked in, I was like...
Was that that was the one that had... was that the one where you had to go up the steps a little bit? Yeah, same. I went, and then, like, then there was, like, a back hallway areas.
When you walked into that place, what you didn't see was the exact same size place on the other side of that wall.
Yeah.
It was like...
I remember before...
it was over 3,000 square feet that he had there.
I remember him showing me and being like, this is what Good Guy's going to be. And I was like, what the fuck? You have this, too? Like, how are you paying for all this? Like, why do you have it? Why is there not, like... You don't have another business.
Because he had that for years, too. Before Good Guy was even on his mind. Right?
Salmon Arm. I'm sure rent was cheap.
So back then, he was a notorious collector. So it was actually just like his storage facility. He had so much stuff back there. I think it almost drove Natalie crazy when we had to move all that stuff out. But it was probably good because it was like he shed a whole bunch of his collectibles when he had to move in. So when we moved obviously moving Good Guy there is another good reason to try to get closer to that also, right? So it was just a lot of pieces came into place that helped push us to finally make that move. And my wife's parents.
Nut milk. Sorry.
Nut milk, because I have semen on my face. Semen on my face.
Chips, semen,
right?
Sailing humor. Dad jokes for days.
So that's after it's amazing that we've stayed this well on track.
With you, yes. Yeah, it's been great. Yeah. I'm just sitting here waiting for the spin out.
So then it was time, you know, that kind of helped us pressure to get closer. It's like, I want to be closer to the business. I was getting further separated from the business side of Good Guy as far as that goes, being that far away from it and feeling the pressure to get closer. At that time, my wife's parents, they were retiring. They had purchased a new home that they wanted to build closer to the lake. So it was time for them to sell their house in Salmon Arm. And they went through, as they were building their house out of the lake and renovating that, they also rented the house that they had in Salmon Arm in preparation to put it on the market and sell it. And it was just good timing. Everything kind of worked out that by the time they were done doing all that, we were thinking stronger and stronger about making the move. And it was just like, why don't we try to buy your parents' house? Maybe they'll sell it to us. You know, we could probably see if they can hold the paper on it for us a bit while we sell our house.
Sell your
here,
place,
you know,
yeah.
And then we'll just inject that money into our mortgage there and just try to turn it over.
Yeah.
And it worked, and it was just like perfect timing, actually. So perfect that by the time we did sign the papers on our house there, and I still owned the other house in Red Deer at that point because it was taking for fucking ever to sell it. It was a down market there at the time. And that's a whole nother story there.
I know. Well, Benny bought my fucking house and I didn't make a penny off of it. Does he still own it?
Yeah. He's still.
Is he just renting it out?
Yeah.
Benny, you son of a bitch. Good guy. Good job. Good job.
Wow, I mean, he'd be so upside down right now if he tried to sell it anyways.
Yeah.
It's like, you know. anyways, so it worked out. We signed the papers literally like a week and a half after our first COVID lockdown. We were in the lawyer's office signing for the house that we bought there from our folks. And now we're there. And it's been, I think we've been there for, I don't know, 4 going on 5 years now. She's been there a bit longer than me. When we first made the move, I was still traveling back and forth to work at the shop. So I'd be in BC for 3 weeks, maybe a month sometimes, and then I'd go back to the shop for 2 weeks. And I mean, that was crazy. I was making hay while I was there, right? So I'd go to work at 10 and I'd work till 10. I'd do two full day shifts.
Try to figure out
for 2
finish
weeks.
up all your work.
Yeah. It was awesome. I mean, it's tough when you get into the momentum, but once you're into it, man, it was fun. That was some of my favorite tattooing that I did was in the end of wrapping stuff up there.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just so like you're just in the motion. It's just never stops. For a while I would stay at the house. I just left a bed and like a plate and a coffee machine and a cup. It was just enough shit that I could show up, drop my bag, eat if I had to there, but it was shop and back.
Yeah.
And then when the house finally sold, then I was like, I found an Airbnb that was just up the street. It was above Sunworks.
Okay.
A couple that owned Sunworks, they had this like little rental spot above there. It was one of the apartments that they had. There were these really rad, like bachelor style apartments, like single room ones, but they did an excellent job at like finishing and putting them all together. So they were really, really nice spots, and it was dirt cheap. It was a block away, so. I'd literally wake up in the morning, go downstairs, go to Dose, get a coffee, go to the shop. I lived off of Skip the Dishes the whole time I was there. I'd go back to the Airbnb up the street, go to sleep, get up, rinse and repeat. Oh,
I do jiu-jitsu with Andrew Rhoda.
Yeah.
So he's got to still come to see you.
Yeah, he's got to get that back done.
Yeah. He just had a really bad surgery. Oh. He had a good surgery, fix a hernia, had real bad complications, healing.
Shit.
Yeah. So he was like out of work. See that guy's fucking woodwork?
Yeah, he's incredible. Man, when I started working on him, he was doing like high-end staircases in buildings.
That's all he does.
Yeah.
But now he's doing them in huge houses.
Yeah.
Well,
I remember even the last time
this dude like bends like 50-foot like wood railings.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So good. I've never seen so many clamps in my life. It's just like, dude, he's got them all. Yeah, great guy. Yeah, he wants me to do his torso.
Cool.
Yeah. So great to finish his back, so we can start his torso.
Yeah. He's still got some credit with me. He's got to come use it up.
Come to Champion.
I should. Yeah.
Come to Champion for 2 days. Do it back to back on him.
Yeah.
So, good guy.
Yeah.
So
I always get back to it.
I know.
So now
I'm curious. I have questions. So I'm curious about because a lot of people kind of know what good guy is today, but I'd be interested to know how you kind of got there, like your relationship with Rob and what you've turned it into, and how you guys separate your responsibilities, and how that makes good guy what it is today.
I want to go back even a little bit further because we just touched on good guy being in a fucking closet and then just skip by it. What made you think of good guy to begin with? Was it the Reed Street Forum? Chatting with other people?
So I guess in reference to
greed.
it's greed. Full capitalist greed. It's a long game. That one. Actually, Rob and I met on Reed Street on the original old Pink Page one, just post Pink Page. It was when he's slightly upgraded it past that point. But that's where we initially met, was on Reed Street. And I can't remember if it was there or I think it was on there that we made a plan to do a convention together, because I figured out I was like, oh, hey, you live in Salmon Arm. My mom lives there. She moved there a few years ago, kind of thing. I should come out. Maybe if I come and visit her, I can come and do a guest spot at the shop kind of thing. And he's like, yeah, hell yeah, you should do that. And then, fast forward, I think it was a couple of months or whatever. could have been a couple of years. Who knows? It was. I think it was the first Vancouver convention. First or second? I think it was the first one. It was in a hotel in like
Second one.
It was the second one.
Yeah.
Multiple levels.
Downtown.
Yeah.
First was out by the Coliseum, or like a peony.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. It wasn't that one. And that was like in the peony in like the Agra.
Dome.
Yeah. So it was the second one then, because I didn't go to the first one. But I think Rob hit me up and he was like, "Yo, we should do a convention together. Like, want to go do a show together?" And we hadn't even met by that point.
Oh, cool.
In person, right? So it was. I was like, "Yeah, we should. Like, we'll do the Vancouver show. It'll be fun."
The Holdfast Social Club keeps expanding and adding features to make the life of tattooers easier. We just launched a classified section for pros only. Sell your tattoo gear, prints, whatever, in one spot. This is on top of a platform with peer-to-peer vouching, direct connect, a wait list, and geo-searching. Now you can find guest spots or forever homes at studios everywhere. No guessing, no awkward conversations. See what shops or artists have to offer. Mark them as favorites or add yourself to their wait list to let them know you are interested. Holdfast Social Club keeps adding features to make connecting easy. Pros only, a place where the best of us can elevate each other.
And we ended up doing the Vancouver show together. That was the first time we met in person, and just split a booth at it, and it was awesome. I mean, it was like, back then it's like you get to see for the first time, like watching Steve Moore tattoo, meeting guys like Trev McStay. First time we ever met him was there. It's like these are the guys you've seen in magazines and the websites that you've been clicking on. I think I might have met. I can't remember if I might have met Dustin the first time there too. But tons of guys like Driscoll was there.
Yeah.
Like it was like that whole Vancouver group that sort of broke up and went around Canada. That's like all those dudes are coming
Except
down. Yeah. So you get to come. It was a cool opportunity to go and see that. So that was our first meeting together. Was there, and then I think Reed Street was like a real good connection point for a lot of tattooers back then, because it really shrunk the geography of tattooing into like a small, accessible room of people.
I didn't spend a lot of time on there, and I had I used a fake username when I was on there, and I was just more a fly on the wall. I just loved the conspiracy. I
spent way too much time
with honestly, Mike Matexta in there, all the people. I'd go in and read some of the other stuff, but I was just, because I was still in the computer stuff. I was just getting clean off drugs, and so I was just like, yes, and just reading all that shit was just so funny and just like the best.
I spent so much time on there that I think that actually led to the separation with my oldest kid's mom. That was like, I was obsessed with tattooing too.
Yeah.
Still. But back then it was like tunnel vision. There was nothing else that really mattered beyond that. So anyways, that's where I met Rob. That's where our friendship kind of came together, was through that, and then doing shows together, and then subsequently doing guest spots. I did one at his shop. He would come out to Red Deer all the time. He'd jump in his car and drive out and come and tattoo for a week. And I mean that was when we were in the original spot in Oriole Park, and that shop was so fucking busy. Like, in retrospect, there could have been 6 or 8 of us in there, and we still would have never kept up with the amount of tattooing that people wanted.
Dude, it was the same at the house, and then it was the same at the big location. I try and tell people that. It's like...
I used to love it. I always tell people, like, man, you need to make money. You go to Red Deer for a week.
You make all the money you need. Jumping off of what a lot of guys did, like Paul did and Dave Lum did and all that. The walk-in Saturdays.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I got it.
Exactly, right?
The Buddha, I was like, man, we should try that here, see if it works.
And it fucking worked.
We'd show up and there'd be 50 people waiting outside it in the morning.
It didn't matter the fucking temperature either. Like when I moved to Red Deer to work there, I would always go early and drive by the front first just to see, what my day's looking like. And it'd just be like, oh, it's going to be a long one. Some days, but it never was.
Some days that trip around the block was just anxiety inducing.
But it was awesome. It was the busiest day of the week, by far, or tattooing wise. But it was like the best decompression day from my week. Because all week I had to draw shit. This stuff was all just like super excited people that are so excited to get tattooed. And they're just, that energy, it was just like, yeah! It's just bang, bang, bang. And it's like 10 tattoos. What time is it, Matt? It's 4. It's like,
want to do another one?
yeah, and then it'd be like we got everybody through, between me, you, Beans, Lee, and then when Ryan came, it was
was there.
so easy to just get through 50 people in a day. It was no problem at all. So
Ben and Andrew were there.
Yeah, Andrew joined us when Beans left, came back, brought Andrew with her.
We had lots of great people at the shop, man. It was super fun.
Yeah, and then Jordan eventually came along. We plucked her out of.
Yeah. She's still there.
Still crushing it.
Awesome tattoo.
Yeah. So, all right, back. Good guy.
Yeah. So
starting,
and then obviously, Reed Street birthed a few other forums that kind of popped up. There was Todd's forum, which was the machine building forum. There was a few other ones I can't really. Little satellite ones that didn't really. They were kind of similar, but a few extra different people on them. Adam opened up. He had his Tattoodos forum that then later on absorbed Reed Street. He purchased Reed Street from Seth.
Yeah,
and that brought all that traffic into the Tattoodos forum, and it was kind of in that transition sort of time when Good Guy kind of became something. At that point, I was still making my own needles every day. Not every day. Sundays were needle day. I'd go down into the basement to my the rental that we had, and I had a little needle making station there. And I'd spend Sunday morning, have a couple coffees, hang out in my little workbench, and I'd build my needles for the week. I'd wash them all off at home, do the baking soda thing, neutralize them, clean them up really nice, I'd wrap them up in paper towel, take them to the shop, package them, sterilize them on Monday or Tuesday. Yeah. Usually it's Tuesday morning, fuck, I hope they're done in time for my first tattoo. But,
I'll be with you in 30 minutes.
Yeah. And that's when pre-mades were starting to really kind of hit the market. They were available and you could buy them through
Needle Jig, was that one of the first ones?
No, he wasn't even making pre-mades at that time. Mark was making his little jigs, which I had, which were awesome. I used his jigs. Cam had needles, exactly. I used to buy them from there. Worldwide was kind of starting to become something in making.
I think Steve Moore took a bunch of Icon needles, because they weren't doing pre-mades yet.
Yeah.
And he took them to, I don't know if it was Cam or Worldwide, gave them.
I think it was Worldwide.
And then he just gave them, this is how I want them. And they made a lot of needles for him and stuff.
And Worldwide's actually one of the original manufacturers of tattoo needles. The guy that started that company was actually making acupuncture needles. That was his main business. And I think it was one of his kids that talked him into, you should pay attention to this tattooing thing.
Yeah.
And I think he did, and then realized quickly, he's like, well, fuck this acupuncture thing.
I can sell tens of millions more needles in a day.
Yeah. and there was a couple others at the same time that were doing that in China. But it got to the point where we were starting to purchase these pre-mades, and some of them were okay. I mean, you'd buy a box of 50 of them, and you'd probably throw out 35 if you gave a shit what your tattoo looked like when you were done.
Yeah.
Right. So you'd buy a box of needles, and you'd have to go through and loop them and check them all. And there was some good ones and some that sucked, and it was just kind of frustrating because it's like, man, I can build every needle perfectly to how I like and what I need and what I know I need out of a needle, and or I can buy them and throw half of them in the sharp spin at the end of the day when I go through the box. And it was just, I don't want to waste my money, right? So then I was like, well, I mean, I know how to make needles. I can figure out how to source stuff. I was getting pretty good at figuring things out at that point, finding things when I needed them. And it was just got to the point where it's I'm going to just find some manufacturers that are A, making beading needles, B, making acupuncture needles or seedy making tattoo needles, you know, and I'll dig around and see what I can find. And I found a few manufacturers, and but at that point, it's like order samples from everywhere, check out the quality of like what they're actually producing, be it an actual pre-made tattoo needle or just single pins by themselves. And those were the ones that actually really shined in that point, was the individuals. And started pretty with that company that I liked their needles. I would build them myself out of their stock, sterilize them, tattoo with them, and I found some that were really close to what I was using. And what I was using at the time was to build needles was Bankuku, which were sold by Canadian Tattoo Supply. Anthony and Rob, I think was the other guy's name that owned that, and it's done. It's been done for years. They were bringing those in from Japan, and prior to that, I was buying Hemmings Phoenix from Studio One. Yeah. And so it was just finding needles that replicated what I liked out of those needles. And once I finally did that, then I was building them and using them, and got happy with what the stock that I got, and kind of narrowed it down to the ones that I knew I could replicate a good tattoo needle out of. Mm-hmm. And then it was just like, okay, I'm gonna build you some needles. I'm gonna send them to you. I need you to replicate it. This is why. This is where the solder should be. This is why the solder should be like that. This is where the point should be. This is where the spread should be, like all that kind of technical stuff that we just know from tattooing, but you had to kind of share with them to get them to figure out
they have no
how and why they're making something this way. And then it was, get samples back, test them. Nope, those are shit. This is why they're shit.
Yeah, solder all the way to the fucking end.
Yeah, inside the needles so you can't see it from the outside.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and that was the birth of Good Guy. It was needles. It was, I just wanted to. I knew I could make something better than what I was getting. I was frustrated with the stuff that we were getting. Didn't want to waste money anymore, and just saw an opportunity where I could produce something and share it with my friends. And I knew if I could do it well, I knew I would get good support from the people that appreciated that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was crazy because back then it was, you were making your own needles, and if you were buying stuff like disposable tubes or pre-mades, quality was fucking sketchy. Yeah. Like I remember early disposable tubes. Holy fuck,
dude! He made me switch to disposable tubes when we first going through a transition of moving. He didn't have an autoclave,
right,
or something happened with it, and I'd never lined with
upgrades. So that's when AHS changed their requirements from the old. We had one of those old Ritters forever.
Yeah,
and then
the M7.
Right.
Yeah.
We had to upgrade to the
so he's like
vacuum with the printout.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm not going to get that until the new shop. Yeah. And I was like, okay. So my second day at Classic, he hands me tubes, and I'm just like, what the fuck?
Oh, they were so shit.
The tips were like, I'm like, can I put like a 45 round in that? And you look, and it's like, no, I can fit a 5 in there.
Yeah, the wall
was so thick. Like,
and the tubes were so flexible. Like,
I can't remember where we were getting those from.
You had a heavy machine, like, with the clip cord on. It was like...
Yeah,
it was on the rubber side. I could use 4 elastics.
Once you put your tube in it and on the machine and held onto it, the weight of the machine would pull it back and change where your needle orientation suddenly it's...
the only thing I was confident in was my line. I'd been tattooing for a bit again for a few years when I came with you, but I had taken 2 years off to get clean and stuff, and so much shit had changed. And then here I am. I got to line a sleeve with a tube I've never used before. I was just like,
can't even see the needle,
dude. I have never had so many like small minor crossovers in a fucking tattoo in my life. I was just sweating. Lucas is like right there, and I was like, fuck, man. Lucas is gonna look over and be like, why did I hire this fucking old guy?
I can remember too having like a machine and the chuck was so fucking tight, and you got trying to pull your fucking. The tubes are bigger, right? And trying to get the tube out, and some
were smaller.
Some were smaller,
and the grips would come off though. You'd be like, "Now the tube's stuck in there. How the fuck do I get the tube?"
I couldn't use my Rozelles. Like unless I wanted to break,
Roger style.
Yeah, if I tried to, I'd end up breaking my key. Or
the little Colette ones. where it had like the collet and the screw that would push
Yeah,
into it.
yeah.
They would just,
Yeah.
over time, it would go right through that and just into the plastic.
Yeah, I mean, you're fucking.
Machine's like, what the fuck is happening? Why is the machine
Yeah,
suddenly
or
getting
sometimes you'd be tattooing and the fucking grip would give way from the plastic too, and all of a sudden your machine's up here and then it's on your hand. It's like, why is there this much tube?
Why is there this much needle?
And that was a pain on its own too. It's like getting disposable tubes and the same process all over again. It's like, these are fucking shitty.
There's
You know,
so many
they're
bad
hard plastic
disposables.
and tiny, or you gotta wrap them with like, it was just.
Yeah.
And even the ones that we were doing in the beginning, I mean, in retrospect, they were shit too. But
I can remember
we only had access to so much, and we had to kind of like get what we could, and then
Yeah.
okay, now we have this, we have to make this better because this sucks.
I remember that you do a guest spot somewhere and someone that had plastic disposable you've never seen before, and you're like, what the fuck are those? Like, well, you gotta try these. And you try them, you're like, well, they're way better than what I'm using. And then slowly every shop would figure out that there's this new fucking tube on the market. And then slowly it would become the worst piece of shit you ever used. It's like another round.
That's like ink, man. I was like, have you tried this color? It's like, I ain't jumping on that
No,
bandwagon.
fuck that.
I've tried a lot of other like technical products, but the inks, I've avoided the bandwagons because a lot of that shit.
And there was a few companies that were like doing that kind of in unison as it went too.
Yeah.
Like one of the great ones was Lucky's. Like Jimmy he's actually like he was doing pre-made needles like we were doing before we were doing and doing it really well.
Yeah.
And then the same with tubes. He found a good manufacturer and like had to make them better, obviously, because
these kids probably don't remember, or a lot of people don't remember. Remember the little black tubes?
It's funny, you think young people are watching this.
Yeah, I know.
It's all fucking old rusty dudes.
The old thin black or white tubes
yeah. Hard ones.
with needle.
Yeah. And sometimes if you could, after that, you could get the ones that had like some shitty, stinky rubber
Yeah.
on the grip for them that look
Yeah, but they came with a needle in the package, right? So it's just like
banging around until you get it.
Thanks. Soft needle bars too.
Oh,
Wow, they were. The needle bars were so soft coming out of China. It was like,
I put my own. It was lead. There was probably so much
I'm
lead
sure
in
of
it.
it. Yeah.
well, and part of it is it's cutting every corner off of it you can to save money.
Yeah,
Fuck
You know,
yeah.
the way that the business is done over there in a lot of places too is you set a price, and then once you've decided on they've like set a price with you, they have to figure out how to make their money based off of that price.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, we'll just make the needle bar skinny, right?
Yeah.
You're going to save
Or use more
over
mixed, or
10
use
million needle bars. You're going to save whatever.
yeah,
$8,000.
but also use mixed metals instead of stainless.
Oh, yeah.
Because who's testing that it's stainless?
Yeah, until a certain point, and then when you know.
Yeah.
You could,
I used to get a lot. There would be some needle bars where I'd be like, "That's not stainless.
Why is it flat gray?
Exactly. Why is it flat gray? And why does it actually feel like galvanized steel to
Yes.
the touch?"
Totally. Yeah. You're making your needle in the fucking bag of the needle bar goes more. Bending.
Awesome. So it was just needles at first, and
just
so
needles
for
at
how long?
first, and then that was probably a couple of years, and then obviously like that's when people are starting to get interested in disposable tubes and you know complaining about shitty disposable tubes. Like I said, which we had in the beginning, we would find a manufacturer, and actually one of an early needle manufacturer that I don't use anymore. Also had access to a molding facility and was starting to get into making tubes. So that's where we started making our tubes was with that guy, and helped kind of like training him to what we needed and all the pains involved in that with like making our own version of a shitty plastic disposable tube that was flexible and then it was like figuring out how to make it not flex and putting a core inside of the rubber grip around the tube itself to take that flex out of it, and lots of different things that we did along the way. That's kind of where the tough tube came into play, was like fixing that issue again. And it was a conversation with James Tex about tubes, and he's like, these things are fucking terrible. I hate using disposable tubes. He's like, why doesn't anybody make a metal one? It's like, well, it's hard is the main thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, you should do that. And I was like, okay, I will do that. We'll figure it out. Right? And I know it's actually interesting because I know Bill Baker had tried to do that years
He
ago.
wanted to do metal tips
That's
with
what
plastic
right,
backs.
right.
And then it was like injection molding issues.
Yeah.
And so
it's actually a really involved process to make them.
Yeah.
To get those
He basically
pieces
was
to
just
work
voted
together.
out
Right.
of that decision.
Right.
Right. It could have been done.
Yeah.
But there was money and research involved, and some people were no longer
it
interested
costs
in
a
doing
lot of
that.
dough to do that shit.
Yeah.
Especially when you're
and then
investing in making
Tatsoul
molds.
ended up doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tatsoul ended up doing
metal tipped ones.
metal tip with plastic backs, rubber grips.
Yeah.
I never used them, but it was like, oh yeah, that was Bill's idea.
And in our mind, that was kind of fixing the wrong end of the problem, right? Especially with like mags, for example, like the metal on metal. I mean, anybody that's tattooed with metal tubes in the past, gray whites are
Totally.
definitely, to say the least, irritating.
Yeah.
You don't want to put in battleship gray when you're trying to put highlights or a light flesh tone or something like that. So, yeah.
And mags were never really the problem with disposables.
No, it was always the liners for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we started those out actually with a stainless back stem, and it worked out really good. Like we basically took our original tube shape and everything and figured out how to mold in with a whole new process of actually molding pieces together to get that metal to be in there and to stay in there. So it didn't separate like older tubes did where it would pull or loosen up and twist as you were tattooing or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that involves like a lot of different stuff with the tooling that puts them together in the injection molding. It has a lot to do with the shrinkage that you build into your plastics that you're using to mold around that stuff. Lots of different changes that kind of make it all work. And it was quite painful to get those to work effectively in the beginning, like behind the scenes before we started putting them out. It took a long time to get it right and, have something that didn't fail 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't work.
No, it's a poor business
One
model.
time out of 10 is hard to deal with, let alone 10. And then, we figured it out from there, and stainless became very heavy, and it's very expensive to produce, to have something that's not going to, that's going to be a good quality and that's not going to oxidize as it's in shipping containers and all those different temperatures and all that kind of stuff as it's being sent over here. We made the first ones with stainless for quite a while and then figured out that, hey, aluminum might be a good option for that.
Why not, right? Because the stem's not going in the body, around the body.
No, not at all. Right?
So,
And aluminum's light. Yeah. And the other side of it is you can anodize it. So you can seal it up so it's not going to
non-porous.
Non-porous. So that's when the new version of the Tough Tube came out, was those ones, and I think they've been a great upgrade in a lot of people's toolboxes for years because of that. If you're still using a direct drive or a coil machine or anything like that.
Yeah, I've loved watching you guys because you guys have always been an innovator. A lot of supply companies, they just bring their stuff over, and I'm sure that's how a lot of supply companies start. But from the beginning, you were always trying to innovate new product and improve upon stuff that already existed.
Yeah.
And I think that's, for tattooers, we appreciate that.
Well, I mean, it's very easy to be incentivized to do that too, because I'm using it every day. Like if I'm using something every day, I want it to be better.
Yeah.
And also, of course, if we're putting our names on something, I mean, I'm sitting here looking you both in the face right now. I can't do that if I'm selling you garbage.
I'll
right?
tell you.
Exactly. So there's a responsibility behind that too. Like, I think that's important, especially with tattooer-driven supply companies, or even people that are enthusiasts that may have a supply company, which is out there these days. And a few have been that way always, and they've been good companies. It's because they actually care about what they're doing, and they care about their reputation and their
Yeah, you can
can
be a businessman, but actually give a shit about the product.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'll only help your product and your marketing and everything else in the end, right? So it's like, yeah, this guy's a piece of shit and doesn't really care. Why would I support him? Right? In any industry, like,
totally.
why would you support him? Right? Like,
and it's also tattooers don't have enough time on their hands generally. I mean, you only work 2 days a week, so it's easy for you. But most of us don't have the time in our schedules to build companies that are tattooer owned only. So we need to have people that are enthusiasts and support the industry
100%.
in that manner. Right?
And honestly, like, very fortunate that events transpired the way they did to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Because if it was left that that Rob and that didn't come into the equation, it probably would have just ended. I couldn't have done it on my own, especially at that time. I was tattooing 5 days a week. I had 2 little kids. I'm running a shop and all kinds of. I was
building machines.
I was building machines like fucking crazy at that time. I was probably building 50 machines a month at that time.
Yeah.
That's a full-time job on its own.
Totally.
So,
Which is actually a perfect segue into partnering up with Rob.
Yeah.
Because you and Rob have been friends for a long time. You've already doing a bunch of stuff within tattooing together. And
we spent lots of time together by that point and close friends.
Other than being friends and knowing you could trust them, what was the conversations like about bringing in a partner? What the roles would be like? Who's gonna? Because that's a tough company. Right?
I mean, up until very recently, those roles were extremely blended. Honestly,
he mentioned
it was a 3-headed hydra, is how he likes to put it. At that point, we were one body with 3 heads.
But you can't forget Nat. We always bring up Rob.
Nat's
totally behind the scenes, but
she's the most important.
Operations.
Peg in that. She's the rung in the ladder that holds it all together for sure.
Yeah, somebody's got to steer you 2 fucking guys.
Yeah.
Someone's got to be responsible.
Yeah.
Okay, dreamers.
2 over-caffeinated raccoons in a room full of shiny shit. It's like,
he is the definition of squirrel.
Fully. Undiagnosed ADHD for sure. I guess the conversation was pretty simple. It was like I was pretty forthcoming with the fact that Dad had to retire, that we were going to try to figure something out with the company. Didn't really know like what I was going to do with it at that point. He's always been a confidant for personal shit that's been going on, and a close friend is always kind of will play that role in your life. But we didn't really know. I didn't know what I was going to do with it at that point, and we were talking about it one day, and he's like, why don't we try to move it up here? Maybe Nat and I can get involved with you, and we can buy into it in a small portion, and sort of like we'll sweat equity, work our way into changing things in the future, and have more of a ownership role in the company in the future. But maybe we can actually keep it going and make it into something at this point. Because it definitely had all the everything was there for it to become an actual, a viable, legitimate company at that point. Yeah.
But you just outgrowing your own.
Totally.
Your own.
I mean, sometimes you plant seeds in life that you don't expect to grow into trees.
Yeah.
So, and that was one for sure. Yeah.
Cedar hedges grow fast.
Oh God.
Also highly flammable.
Very. But that's kind of when that happened, and that was the back into the story. That was the point where it was like, okay, we need to figure out where we're going to put this thing. We can't. None of the 3 of us can run it remotely from Salmon Arm and Red Deer from Castlegar, so we're going to have to move it. And that's when it moved into Rob's place, and I mean, innovation-wise, we've just been trying to continually just pay attention to what our peers want and need, pay attention to what we want and need, and try to, facilitate that as best we can and in the best way we can. It's just been...
We only ever get to see the finished product. Some of us see in process. But what kind of timelines are you dealing with when? Because people have no idea. They think that you just source out something in China and then you put it on the market, but something like the pen or you create a new tube or something.
Or even just your what's the Model F?
Yeah.
Like even just your Model F, probably. Like, because I remember watching you learning a little bit about the modeling from Brendan
Feldman.
Feldman.
Yeah.
I remember he was showing you some modeling, 3Ding and stuff like that.
Yeah, so he was using A360, which is an AutoCAD like a program, and I was learning. So that's a cool one because it's kind of consumer based and it can be a very high level based program. Like it sort of blends everything. So I think that they kind of built that around like giving access to like just your average Joe or your seasoned, SolidWorks user as somebody that understands CAD designing. He's a total savant and he basically taught himself how to do all that shit, which is wild, like all through, he took some courses and stuff online, but most of his resources were just like studying stuff and figuring out how to do it. And he would share a lot of that stuff with me. Because prior to that, I'm using like grade 11 drafting, I'm going back to my,
paper and pencil,
drafting stuff out, showing it in different views, drafted with all your measurements.
I remember seeing all those drawings.
I'm glad I paid attention in drafting classes. That was one of 3 that I actually, wasn't off in space for, or not even present for. But yeah, I learned how to do a little bit of stuff from him. But most of that, it's just being resourceful. I don't even actually design a lot of that stuff. I can now do a little bit of it, but it's rudimentary. I mean, again, it comes back to that time problem. I'm still tattooing. I'm involved way more in the back end of the business now with the daily inner workings of things. And, I'm a dad. It's like, I'm still building machines at home. So there's not enough time to really like learn how to use a design program and actually use it well and efficiently. I can do a little bit of stuff. I can kind of like model stuff and then hand it off to somebody that can fine tune.
How do you create the rough?
Yeah. Because there's certain aspects that are very difficult to do, especially when you're getting into like complex like curves and
But how much lead time is that up to like a launch? Like some people might think that's only a few months, but I know it's longer.
Well, sometimes it is, and then that's kind of that resourcefulness too, right? Like the Model F isn't really a good example of like how that lead time can really stretch out. I did that in conjunction with my friend Paulo in Brazil. Mm-hmm. He owns a gigantic company called Electric Inc. in Brazil, and this guy's got a team of the best people that you could possibly attract work in-house for him. So he's got like electrical engineers, he's got master mold makers. Like that guy, master mold maker, I think he came from like DeWalt, was taken from DeWalt. So, he's got his like structural engineer that came from Fiat. He's got amazing proper people working for him. His color engineer that makes his color, who makes our True Color now, that's where our True Color is made, is in his facility in Brazil. He worked for BASF for 25 years. He was like the guy there. And when there was stuff that went on there that ended up taking him away, and Paulo was smart enough to be like, come with me, please.
Yeah. So, I got a job for you.
Yes, please help. And by that point, he was already doing things really well, had a relationship with that guy, but it was like, he's smart to see, when it's the right people to bring into the fold. So anyways, he's got a team of people that are amazing there. And the Model F literally started out, like I've been wanting to make, and I started kind of drawing stuff like that years ago. Obviously a rotary that works like a coil machine, because it's like you want the reliability of a rotary and the hit and feel and feedback of a coil. And that's an hour-long conversation on its own right there. But I had a good idea of how I wanted to do that and put it together. And I literally drew it on the back of an envelope when I was in queue at the dump. It was like one of those days where there was a 45-minute queue at the dump, and I had a bunch of shit. During COVID, I built a garden behind my workshop, and it was all the shit that I cut out of like all the old trees and shit that we had there. My truck was full of it, so it's me getting rid of all that stuff. And I've been thinking about this and dreaming about it for a long time, so I finally like sketched it out in a few different viewpoints on the back of this thing, and I showed it to Paulo one day. I was like, I've been wanting to do this rotary for a long time. I've drawn different versions of it. Some of them were too close to what other people were doing, so I just left it and walked away from it. I don't want to like step on other people's toes with that kind of stuff, obviously too, right? But had this idea, drew it up, and he was like, cool. He's like, leave it with me. I'll put my guys on it. And I mean, he took his guys off of, which was a huge thing that he did for me, but he took his guys off of all their projects down there for like a couple of weeks and basically engineered exactly what I showed him and improved upon it a little bit. And I think I had samples for that probably within 3 months of me drawing that, which is insanely fast.
Yeah, Brian Gagne outlined on me with that.
Right.
It's fucking nice.
They work great. Yeah. I tattooed with, I still have 2 of my prototypes that I use all the time. I still use them. Tattooed them.
You gonna make a battery pack for it?
I have an idea. I won't get too far into that, but I've got an idea for something better. Yeah,
Nice.
battery. It'd be cool to try to
Just pulls it out of the air.
yeah, little solar tap machine.
Or a little wind machine. Tattooers talking all fucking day.
But that one was really fast. But other stuff takes a long time. I mean, some projects like the pen, for example, it takes a long time because it's like there's a lot of sourcing, there's a lot of R&D, a lot of pain that goes into the back end of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you can easily spend a year on a project. Some of which never even make it to the finish line. You might have a cool idea that's sounds good or is neat in theory, but never isn't attainable or isn't something you can produce for an economical.
Sometimes you have to produce it to realize it doesn't work either.
Totally, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, some stuff can take a long time. I mean, even to redo, like say for example, you want to go in and redo your line of cartridges. Sounds simple. Well, that's like how many groupings are there? How many different tip sizes are there? It's like that's a ton of stuff that has to be reconfigured, redesigned. You have to then machine new molds. Then you have to test all that stuff. Then you have to fix that. And it's just, it can take a long time.
I remember talking to Rob around the time you guys brought out Supremes.
Yeah.
And him talking about, well, these are the sizes we have. And I'm like, well, you have there's 3 sizes I use you don't have.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, well, you know how much money? He was talking about just the tooling and all that. But then he was also talking about how much shit you guys need to order to make the price affordable, right? And it's like, so all that money is tied up just to have these 3 other sizes. And I was like, holy fuck. That would be a tough business decision to make, are they going to sell and are they going to sell in time
too, right?
before they expire? And,
And I mean, you would be aghast to see how much stuff we've had to recycle over the years because expiration dates have come up.
Which are so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
My needles expired. Did they?
Yeah.
Did they? Fuck.
I had a guy get at me the other day. He's like, hey, do you guys sell 35 mags? It's like, no. He's looking for the mic on bar. I'm like, no, we used to years ago. We had like 25s, 35s, 45s, but they're milk. They expired and we had to recycle them because nobody bought them. You got to order however many 100 boxes of these things.
Yeah.
And you sell 12. Well, it's like, that's a bad business plan, man.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that stuff's perishable.
Yeah. And I mean, it's no different across the board. You can talk to any company and it's the same thing. They've stopped doing that kind of stuff because the demand isn't there for the product in the end, and you can't.
It sucks too in a creative field because there are people that have certain tools they want to use that they know work best for them, but it's like suddenly the market doesn't support it, so they can't get it unless they make it themselves. But you're not making
just put 15-year expiry dates.
Yeah, and that was just on par, right? So now you've got cartridges, and you've got good delivery methods for using that system now that can fill that gap for those certain things.
Yeah,
at least that's a nice. That's nice on that side of things that you're not stuck.
I like how all your liners are red in the box, all your mags are yellow.
Yeah.
What I hate about all your liners are red and all your mags are yellow, that there's no differentiation between certain things. So when I'm talking to somebody, like when I'm talking with somebody, you know, and I'm grabbing the boxes myself, I'm grabbing the wrong shit.
You stop talking so much and pay attention to what you're doing.
that's not going to happen.
No. Hey, I know your pullers have made mistakes too, so.
Oh, yes. We are all human.
If they're bug pins, make them a different color.
I was so grateful when you guys put big numbers on the cartridges.
That is the best.
Because when they were injected molded on there, that was nice, but it was like, and not once did I think this should be bigger. I was just like, fuck, I can barely see that. Never once did I think, fuck, I wish there was a big fucking number on there that I could just look at.
It's like the tubes, you're trying to feel it to braille of the number.
Yeah. You can thank Rob for that one.
I would love it if your tubes were different colors.
Yeah.
You know, like your mags and liners, just so when I glance over, I can just grab them.
Yeah. The numbers on the Supreme, that's a great idea.
Yeah. That was a nice upgrade.
Yeah. It's just a simple thing.
You can just put it down.
But it's great.
Who's what.
Yeah. Just such a simple thing.
Yeah.
But again, it's not a simple thing.
It adds more
and you're doing something new that nobody else is doing. So then you got to source a way to print that, and you got to figure out a company that can handle high volume printing like that. And then you got to.
And it's niche.
What's it being printed with?
Every size has a different number on it, so they have to change the fucking setting every time they do a different run.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it's cool and it works good, and it should be like that. So
yeah,
there it is.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's rewind a little bit, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Let's go back to Classic Tattoo, the original location. Do you mind talking about the Hudson Heart Project?
Not at all.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I just tell because I don't know.
Yeah, we haven't done it since the year we moved. That was, I mean, obviously COVID affected all that, and then moving affects that because it's not something we can do remotely. But yeah, it was a fundraiser that we put together to for the Stollery Hospital in Edmonton.
Yeah, and that started in what year?
No, I don't know.
And why?
Well, what year was your son born?
It didn't start that year.
It started a couple years after. Yeah.
Huds was born with a still hard to talk about, but
we can skip it if you want.
Yeah, I can talk about it, but it's just difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, maybe we'll skip it for a bit. I can come back onto it.
No worries.
Yeah. But I can just kind of
the fundraiser itself, raising for the Children's Hospital. You guys ended up getting a plaque because in total over the few years you've done, how much did you guys end up raising? Like
230, I think. 1,000. Yeah.
That's amazing. How many years was that total?
4.
Yeah, 4 or 5.
That's crazy to do in that short a period. It's not like a 20-year thing that was going
on.
It
was so. It got to the point where I was just like, "Am I going to drive down for this? Because I don't even know if I'm going to get the tattoo." Because so many fucking tattooers were showing up for it. It was like a convention for people to know. In a 2,300 square foot shop, there was barely any room to move because of how many tattooers were literally tattooing on top of each other.
There was usually 20 to 30 at the time.
Our homie Chris Wenzel, rest in peace. He'd be working in a fucking
lawn chair.
The lawn chair.
A fold up lawn chair. Like one of those
his own lawn chair. And he would just put the person's leg across his lap and be like, I can do legs and arms.
Dude, that guy, I can't remember how many tattoos he did.
So many.
It was
such a big heart, that guy.
Yeah.
That was so fun. Yeah, I did 13 that one year.
I think Chris and Gagne hold the record of those ones. I think, if I remember correctly. But
I must still hold the latest one then.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
How many? What was your?
Well, I did 13 or 15. Matt would remember. I did 13 or 15, but the last one I did, I started at like 1 in the morning.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody else just go on.
Yeah.
But because that year I lived there still.
That's right.
Yeah. The other years I would drive down for it. So, but
yeah, that was great.
that was a very cool thing.
And I mean, that wasn't, you say you guys, that was everybody that came.
Yeah. There was so many fucking people. It was awesome. And then you did the machines.
Yeah, that was cool. We did that 1 year. That was a shame we couldn't facilitate that multiple years, but it was kind of like a machine builder kind of donation on the outside of the fundraiser to.
Yeah. I have 3. I'll post pictures.
Yeah.
I have 3. Yeah.
There were some good ones. We had lots of awesome builders that came together.
Well, I had. I got the SAF one.
Yeah.
And then and he was so like, oh, don't use it. And I'm like, it works great. I don't use them. I'm like, but I did once. And I'm like, it was great. He's like, really? And he's like, that's not my usual geometry. And I'm like, no, it's great. And then I have the Big 5. And,
from Root.
Root
Big 5.
and Big 5. I got that matching. I got the matching pair.
Cool.
Yeah. So,
we had some. That was incredible.
Yeah.
So those are cool, like the heart frame.
Yeah, heart,
kind of
big ass, fucking heavy
skeletonized one.
heart. Even skeletonized is still pretty heavy. Yeah.
Well, and some of them got filled with like.
Nobody filled the ones that I have, but
luckily
they're paperweights.
But even the ones that didn't get filled with heavy shit. Like I think Seth did some cool ones that had like skateboard laminates that were cut and inserted into them.
Oh, cool.
I think I did one with like an acrylic heart cut out and put inside of it. And those are cool. It was a fun project, that one. It was rad to see so many people like outside of Alberta come in to help to tattoo at that. Yeah. And then outside of like Canada to like build those machines and put their time and effort.
How many was it? 25?
I think so. Yeah,
which is a lot of time and effort to build. Think of the hours someone builds a machine and 25 times that. That's a lot of great goodwill.
Yeah, because they're not getting
nothing from it.
They're not getting any economical thing from it. Right?
No,
they're getting like the goodwill of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was very cool. Yeah. I was very stoked that I was able to win those machines.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and then obviously the clients. Clients and community and all the support. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
I always thought that was a cool thing about doing fundraisers for a good cause. Is that the clients go home with a permanent reminder of doing a good deed.
Yeah.
Like you get your tattoos are really selfish things generally. It's about something that happened in your life, but that is like something you're doing for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And just reminds you that doing something charitable and something empathetic is like you got a good feeling getting it, and you always get that reminder.
Yeah, that was a good run for that project. That was fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. Super fun. So many people contributed to it. The tattooers for Japan that you ended up creating and organizing.
That was
so fun.
I'm pretty certain we did a day for that at Classic too.
There were 65 studios that did walk-ins for that.
Yeah, I organized one in Calgary and in Edmonton. Yeah. I don't remember if I came to yours. I think I came to yours. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I came to yours. Because I just left Classic.
Oh, right.
To go start at Lucky Strike in Edmonton because the driving 4 hours a day just got to be too much. Yeah, and that's right around when the Tattooers for Japan thing started. So I'm pretty sure I would have come back to the Classic one for sure. But I know I did Calgary and then Edmonton and Lucky Strike. And
that raised almost $100,000.
It raised $105,000.
Was that?
Yeah, just over $105,000.
What was cool about that was the money went to a group of artists and bikers, they're not bikers, but that were running supplies up into Fukushima and into the areas that were affected by that.
Right. Yeah.
So they were every day they were just running supplies up to elderly people. People couldn't get out of their houses, or no one else would take stuff in. And I think the IRC too.
The International Refugee something.
Yeah, it was fucking rad.
Yeah.
Tattooers took his shit.
We can.
Yeah. Pull our head up.
Yeah.
Our asses for long.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy when both you and Ryan did that, actually, those drives. To
Yeah.
the shop and back. From you from Edmonton and then
Me from North Edmonton.
Yeah.
So it was almost 2 hours to the minute from my front door to Classic, and then I'd work and then leave. And Matt used to call me half day Hedley because I'd always leave early, and I'd be like, "Yeah, motherfucker, I'm driving 2 hours."
Yeah.
And it's like I'll stay if there's walk-ins, but there's that sweet spot where it's like if I leave an hour early, it's not worth it because the traffic is so fucking bad, right? But if I leave at 4, then I kind of beat all the rush hour. I get a little bit of the rush hour in Edmonton, but not so bad. And Matt would always make fun of me half to Hedley. I'll be like, "You drive 2 hours, 2 hours fucking home."
But you're not driving 2 hours, you're driving 4. Like that's
Yeah.
Like you're driving by that time 4 hours on top of it.
Yeah, and I would get to
It's like half day of driving.
Yeah, so, and I would get to Classic usually around 10 a.m.
Oh my God.
Right? I wasn't like the guy like walking in at like 10:59 and setting up. Right? I got there usually by 10 so that I could complain to Beans about my drive and get it out of my system before my client came in.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I did that for 18 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Gagne joined us, and he would do it from Calgary. He had the shittier end of the stick. I had some bad fucking drives coming north in the winter, but never was the highway closed. Between Red Deer and Edmonton, I don't think the highway was ever closed unless there was an accident. Mm-hmm. But they would actually close the highway south of Red Deer.
Really?
Because the weather was so bad. The winds would be so high.
Huh.
Like, the winds would just blow transport trucks over.
And blowing snow over the highway. And it was
So you like people hitting like wind drifts and shit. Like, so Gagne, that's why he moved up so much faster. Whereas I left for a year, worked in Edmonton, and then I came back. And then when I came back, I bought a house and lived there. And then only lasted 18 months.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. I loved working there.
Yeah, it was a fun shop, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of great clients.
Yeah.
I loved tattooing in Red Deer.
Yeah, people were awesome.
I loved tattooing in Red Deer. I didn't have the best time living in Red Deer, but I also didn't have the best time living in a lot of places for that chunk of my life because I just didn't really have friends. Right? You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, great time.
Why don't you guys make textured needles and sizes I like?
We do.
He sent me pictures.
I know. They're all long tapered.
Well, the mediums are coming.
Okay.
They're in queue right now.
Okay.
That's been something I've been working on.
You put me on a subscription for those then. I'll make sure I buy a year's supply.
Done. You can be our beta tester.
Okay.
Subscription model.
Yeah, again, it just takes time and money.
Well, it takes time and money, and it takes adoption is the other side of it. I use textured needles all the time. I like long tapers, and I like long taper textures. They've always sort of like phased in and out of our catalog of needles. We used to have some that we called deluxe tapers, which were
I remember that.
Yeah. So those were a texture, but they were had a very aggressive shoulder on them. So,
Okay, yeah, don't like that.
a lot of people didn't like that.
Yeah.
I did. I liked that. Like,
great for color packing.
those needles were actually the same ones that Troy Glenn used to sell in Australia.
Okay.
That's who hooked me up with the guy that made those ones. And from Classic Color Systems, for anybody that doesn't know who Troy Glenn was. Again, those were ones that like some people loved, and other people were like, I cannot use these, and destroying people with them.
Yeah.
So
0.35s, icons.
yeah, same thing. Like you could use them if you knew how.
If you knew how to use them,
But
and then I've met people who use those for lining.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I can't remember if I'm right or wrong about that. I know, so when Paul did my back, we were talking about needles. This is like 06 to 10 in that neighborhood.
Paul Jeffries for everybody out there.
Yeah, Paul did my back with a 3-liner, a 5-liner, and a 7 mag. And I'm pretty certain that the 5 that he was using was actually a 040. I think he was actually using, it was a larger pin size to make a 5 needle round, but was actually the size of an 8 needle round.
Whoa.
I might be wrong, but I think I'm right about that. Dude, he was the easiest person I've ever been tattooed by.
I've heard that from so many people.
His tattooing was like, his machines sounded like crazy old lawnmowers that were barely running anymore. But the touch, like when he was shading, just the motion and the way that he tattoos just kind of like feathers the ink in. And this is like hand mixed powders that he makes himself, or made himself at that time. He was the easiest person I'd ever been tattooed.
Yeah, I've heard that from so many people.
Not even a slough sometimes when it healed. It was just like dry skin a little bit. It was amazing. But I think he had some tricky thing that he was doing with needles at that point. But yeah, other guys, same thing. They you use those super blunt, crazy, super short taper needles that they were making, and make liners out of them so you could get a fat line single pass, and then the skinny super long taper ones, make them tight so you can tighten shit up on the outside and build up your lines or whatever.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But yeah, we do make textures, and I've slowly been introducing those, and I'm doing it more into those Supreme lines of cartridges, because we're probably going to end up phasing out in the long run of the standard cartridge. Okay. It doesn't have a membrane in it.
Yeah.
Is that the only difference?
That's the only difference. Slightly. I mean, the Supremes are slightly stiffer than the standard cartridges. Okay. So the standard ones have like a little elastic in them that actually pulls your grouping down in the tube and creates that the return tension on the cartridge. They're a little bit looser, so they have a little bit less, little lower grams of tension in that rubber band, and it's very,
because the 13 mag standard cartridge and then the Supreme, the exact same one, they feel different to me.
Of course they do. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, and the reason is because of that change in that tension, that return tension.
Really?
Because of course,
I like the standard better, actually.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've heard that from people talking about the liners, that they like the liner in the standard better. And I've always wondered, is that because without the membrane, there's less resistance?
Yes, slightly. Slightly less.
So is that what they would notice? Is what I was.
Yeah, I think that's what they would notice, but they wouldn't know. I mean, it takes a little bit of the technical understanding of the actual construction of those things to understand why it's feeling different.
Gotcha.
But that you will feel a difference.
Yeah, I like those standard mags. I like the Supreme liners.
Oh, okay.
I like the Supreme liners better than the standard liners, but I like the standard mags better than the Supreme mags.
And the reason why you might see those slowly phase out over time is because a lot of governing health bodies prefer
the membrane.
The membrane, because it's kind of magic, right? I mean, sure, it does stop backflow, but you have to be handling your tools and your cartridges correctly to not create cross contamination and all that kind of stuff. But they like that, because if they have something that says anti-backflow safety, blah, 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 it removes liability from them as the governing body, whether it's used or misused correctly. I mean, you can use our regular cartridge the same way and have no problems, and we all know that, but
you should get a little stand made up that you can put your cartridge in so the back goes in and is covered. And then you can pull it out, put it in your machine, and so you don't just throw it on your fucking station with the ink rolling around in there.
Yeah. Well, I do that sometimes. I'll cut like my packaging. I'll cut it off and just tape it to the table, and then that way I can when I take the cartridge out, I can set the back of it down in that. So I'm only touching the cartridge itself, like the tip goes in.
Oh, and fucking thank you for the good pen.
I was just about to say the good pen grip.
I meant to bring this up before when we were talking about the good pen, but the grip is my fucking rinse cup. Yeah, it's the best rinse cup I've ever fucking used.
Was that by design?
That was by design.
I knew it. When you sent me that picture, I'm like, fuck, I bet he did that.
And I borrowed that. That's from Derb from True Tubes.
Yeah. Okay.
He started doing that years ago, and when I saw him do that, I was like, that's fucking super smart, because you're using that portion twice.
Who's Derb?
Derb.
Yeah, Derb Morrison.
From True Tubes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I made sure I asked Derb first before I did that. It wasn't just something that we stooped and rehab and just did. It was like I made sure to reach out and ask him, and he was like, "Please use it." Yeah,
It's the best rinse cup. Like, it's the smartest idea. It's big and square, like, you know.
And you can fucking see.
Yeah, totally.
yeah,
Like, because it's clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not a hard fucking rinse cup where you hit your needles and it's fucking, the whole thing goes.
No, you hit your needles and you get to see the little squirt come out the side. Crap.
Whoops. Needles go like this.
Not if the solder's all the way to the end.
I really tried to do that with standard tubes too, with changing the way the package works. So it was like a cup with like, like a yogurt cup or something like that. Yeah. So the tube went in, but it was just either it's going to poke back through the top and shipping, or it wouldn't work. But I was trying to make the rinse cup be the package for that too.
I think this is a better. It's so big and square. You don't have to put Vaseline underneath it to keep it in place. It just sits there. I've never knocked one over.
Yeah, I still do.
I'll do that.
Grab a little Vaseline and stick it.
Yeah, swipe of Vaseline. I got to use my Vaseline with something now that I'm using your slip. So
Another good one.
Another product I've been sold on.
I wanted to use the slip more than the butter because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
I like the butter. but I've decided
the butter goes further anyways. So
it does. It's crazy. It's
pound for pound, you're kind of spending the same at the end of the day.
Every time I put it out, I think of one of the first guest spots I did was in Niagara Falls. Lucky 13. It used to be a way cool.
Yeah.
The guy was such a fucking cunt.
Alex.
No, it was Eric.
Eric. Oh.
And he was. I remember setting up my station for the first tattoo. He's like, "Well, what the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know." What am I doing?
Something wrong.
I'm taking any tattooer, taking a big fucking dipstick of fucking Vaseline and put it on my station. He goes, "You're doing a tattoo this big. You don't need a Vaseline like this big."
I set up the same way for everything.
Yeah.
Too much Vaseline, too much ink.
Of course.
Yeah, totally.
Too much paper towel.
Why am I using ink cups this big?
I had to start using the big cups because I didn't know I needed glasses yet.
Drilling the side cut. I count at the shop now. Every time someone hits it, I count out loud. 1. No one knows what's going on, and then they go in. 2. How many times before you change that needle?
Awesome. What's next? How many conventions are you doing a year?
I didn't do all of them with the company this year. A couple that I couldn't get to, a couple that I did get to. Sometimes, family, other outside elements.
Are you tattooing any more conventions, or
No.
pretty much no?
No, fuck that.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I love going to conventions. I love all the times I've had at conventions, but
Same.
in retrospect, they were the most stressful situations I could have ever tattooed in.
Yeah.
And I just, I just don't want to subject myself to tattoo camping.
I get,
Tattoo camping.
Yeah.
I'd rather go camping and tattoo.
Yeah, I get a booth and get super stressed out, and then I just not end up tattooing because I have more fun just visiting. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna travel to these things now.
Yeah.
Didn't we do that in Montreal for a couple of years? We both got booths, and there people would go by and be like, "Where art?"
Yeah, and I wasn't even in my booth.
Yeah, same.
Michael, I stuck Michael in my booth with me one year, and then I wasn't in my booth.
I can't think of how many shows we've done over the years where you've unloaded, set up, packed your shit up, and left, and not talked to anybody. Unless they're coming by to say, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah.
Or you happen to see them on the way to the
Or
bathroom,
unless the
or you get a
ridiculously
hot dog or
late
some
night
fries or something.
Yeah, like the ridiculously late night coordinated fucking dinner to the only shitty restaurant that's open at 2 a.m, and you get to go and sit with a couple people and yell over top of your food, all grumpy because fucking it's taking forever to come out because 35 tattooers just ordered the exact same fucking meal.
Well, let's be honest, we're
Creatures of habit.
too old for that now.
Well, now, yeah.
It's fun to walk a convention, though.
But that's my favorite thing now, honestly. Going to shows now and being at the booth or having the opportunity to go and walk around and see people.
Yeah.
It's completely different and it's super fun.
And it's how, I hate to say it, convention organizers will disagree, but that's how I think conventions should be for us to socialize and
A trade show.
learn.
Well,
Treat it like a trade show.
On that note, I'm sure if you were present at a lot of the old, like the original, like national shows.
Definitely not.
Definitely
Not present.
not, right? But through stories that you hear about them,
Yeah,
that's the idea behind them. It was a gathering. It was like you'd bring clients with you. You'd tattoo for the weekend, and it was like a social event.
Yeah.
You went there to see your peers.
Yeah, like
and enjoy
kind
your
of a
time
closed trade show almost.
Yeah.
And now it's obviously more commercialized.
Yeah, of course. I've been enjoying what we've been doing, going on Saturday, walking around, like the last two that we've done together. This is what I'm digging. And then, Saturday we just grab random tattooers that we, may or may not have ever met and just been like, hey man, you want to talk to us for 5 to 15 minutes or whatever, and just get to meet these younger tattooers. Or a lot of them are super awkward like we were and stuff like that too, so it's kind of like just grabbing people and being like, talking to this, and we're going to ask you questions. And it's been super fucking fun, because it's like, there's a big disjoint, right? With a lot of us older guys now,
Of course,
with the younger generation, unless you're in a shop with a bunch of younger people and stuff, I'm not connected, and so this has been super fun, just going and walking around, talking to people. And
Totally.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, I know moving back to BC and moving out of like a busy shop atmosphere that I curated over the years, it's a definite change, like being separated. You feel it a lot more when you're like,
Yeah.
I look at my friends that have, like Kevin's place here with like private spaces.
Yeah.
Like,
Homestead Tattoo here in Calgary.
Yeah,
we're at Homestead Tattoo.
That's
you.
amazing.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Kevin Preggett, sir.
It's wonderful to have your own space, but you start to feel it quickly unless you're in a good. It's great in a city like this where you've got lots of your friends and peers all around you. Where you
I think there's 8 private studios in this building.
But it can get separated. You can feel the separation very quickly once you start to get out of like a tattoo shop atmosphere.
Yeah, it's weird being this old guy now.
This convention is really interesting because there's technically 3 generations of tattooers. There's guys like Paul and Jack Rudy, Eddie Deutsch are all here, Henning and Trevor.
Well, just
there's our
speaking with
generation.
Trevor yesterday, right? It was like 80s, 90s, 2000s, right? Like just a 30-year gap generation. That's crazy. And then but then now with the younger like we literally have like 50 years. Right? You know what I mean? Like 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and now the 2020s are all being represented at a convention.
It's almost 2024, and there's kids that have been tattooing for 2 years that started in 2022. It's crazy to think that, right?
Yeah, and they're doing great stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
The amount of like young tattooers now that are absolutely crushing is crazy.
yeah, that Kale Crystal kid.
Oh,
Totally.
man.
Yeah.
So rad, too.
Fuck that kid.
So many of them. I mean, you can't even name them all. There's
so many.
It's like you see new kids come up that you've never heard of that have, like you said, they're 2-3 years deep, and it's like
Yeah.
It
was
and
like
a lot of them are so eager, too, which is so great to see, right? Like, it's so easy to fucking dish on the fucking younger generation, but
Totally.
it's not the case, right?
No.
They're bright-eyed and fucking...
Yeah, not all of them are, but there are so many that are, right? It's like, but it was like in Kelowna, across from us. I don't know what her name was though, but her script.
Oh yeah,
It was just like, that girl from Vancouver.
yeah, she did the shirts for Rob for the OK show.
Yeah,
her
and I was just like,
so good.
holy fuck, really good.
Yeah.
Like,
but kids are being groomed now by their parents, even when they're young, to be tattooers. It's like it's a career option.
Right.
Whereas for us, it was like
not a career.
parents were freaking out, like, "Oh my god, you're going to the dark side." Like,
Yeah.
I was lucky. I had folks that were just as stoked that I was tattooing that I was doing anything.
Yeah.
My dad collected tattoos when I was young. I mean, he's been tattooed by old timers like Curly Allen and what was the other guy's name? It was a guy that used to tattoo in the Drake Hotel, I think, in Vancouver.
In the Drake.
Yeah.
It wasn't not Ted Liberty. I don't think tattooed on the
No, it was.
Ted Liberty. There was Curly. There was Doc Forbes. There was
Circus Leo. Was his
Circus
name.
Leo. Yeah.
Dad got a tattoo from him when he was like, I don't know, I think he was like 13, and he told him he was 16 or something like that, right? Yeah. So he's been collecting tattoos his whole life, so it was easy for me to fall into that.
You're lucky.
Yeah. yeah, a lot of people, especially in our generation, it was like,
Well, my parents were.
what are you doing with your life?
My mom didn't tell anyone that I was a tattooer for the first 10 or 15 years of my career. Seriously. Like, she told me that. She's like, I'm not telling anybody you're a tattooer. I was like, what are you telling him I do?
He's unemployed. I had a woman come in for a tattoo, walk in a champion there a few weeks ago, and had her daughter with her. Daughter, I think, was like 17. She wasn't getting tattooed, and she was like, "Yeah, my daughter's, wanting to become a tattooer and stuff." And like, her daughter's not asking any questions; it's the mom.
Yeah.
Like, my kid wants to be a tattooer. Like, what should she do? I was just like, keep drawing. Start getting tattooed when you're 18.
Yeah.
Spend time around tattooers that you want to learn from. Don't go to any traditional tattooer if you want to do realism. Don't go to any realism tattooer if you want to do traditional. Like, stuff like
get fucking tattooed.
But get tattooed, right? And get tattooed by different people, and then figure it out.
Immerse yourself in what tattooing is and find out where you fit.
Yeah. I think I learned more in the first probably 5 years of collecting from good tattooers than I did in like the first 5 years of tattooing. Easily. That's even the kind of a poor representation. I probably learned more in the first year of getting tattooed and collecting from good tattooers than I learned in the 5 years leading up to that. It was, once you're there witnessing it and watching it take place, the osmosis and if you're paying attention, you'll pick it up. But
collecting.
Collecting.
You're getting tattooed tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
What are you getting?
More. Henning's going to work on my legs some more. So probably got probably 2 days left on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then your suit's done?
Well, I got some little gaps to fill on the other leg, a little chunk of background underneath my ass, and then that's basically it. Yeah.
So you're doing inner thigh with Henning?
Inner thigh to ankle, basically.
Rough.
Inner thigh is easy.
I didn't mind
the lower leg. The lower legs are horrible. I'm not looking forward to that at all.
I think the back.
You and Anthony both just going to be having it all out this weekend.
Yeah.
Stace is getting tattooed by Eddie Deutsch.
Sick.
Today today's Friday, right? Yeah, I think tonight.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
At the show?
Yeah.
Sweet.
I don't know where, but he said something like this size.
Yeah. Eddie will draw it on and tattoo it in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
$1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
Cool.
What's next for Good Guy?
I don't really know. We're just kind of going with the flow.
Yeah.
Ideas
are, of course, percolating in the
pipeline. We've always got some stuff cooking. I've got some projects to work on that I want to start to start getting back to as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Nothing. We're not trend setting or doing anything crazy. We're just kind of continuously tightening up what we're doing and expanding a little bit on the lines that we have. And we've been fortunate to hire and bring on a lot of new staff over the last year. So we're kind of in the back end of the company. We've restructured and really role defined. I guess that goes back to a question we had probably an hour ago about before we got off into the weeds there.
Yeah. What do you do? What does Rob do?
Well, Rob is he does a lot with, obviously he's like design. He's as far as like the
merch.
Well, for sure merch. He does all the packaging. He's kind of our in-house graphic design for that kind of stuff.
Okay.
He also is really our leader in a lot of the technical stuff that goes on. So a lot of the websites, all that kind of stuff. Like he's such a voracious reader and absorber of everything, and he's super interested in a lot of that kind of stuff to begin with. So
a lot of that's really focused around like the marketing then also,
marketing,
right?
100%. Yeah. And
so he's the more business side.
Yeah, and he's been taking care of a lot of we've been slowly starting to export a lot of our stuff into other supply companies over the past couple of years. And that's definitely been the project that he's been taking care of and spearheading. That's about to be slowly passed off onto some of the new hires that we have in place to facilitate that stuff.
Yeah.
Natalie is day-to-day operations. She's the glue. Yeah, she holds it all together. She keeps us all on the straight and narrow. She's the one that's like, she manages the warehouse in total. She manages us in total. Keeps everything together. Again, that's a role that's been broken out into a few new hires that are going to actually, a proper warehouse manager, we just brought somebody on for accounting. So we've got an in-house accountant that's taking care of all that kind of stuff. So it's really just like taking all the stuff that we've spread ourselves out over years and giving it to specific people and defining those roles. And I still maintain my ultimate beginning role in the company, which has just been R&D. I still tattoo. I'm still fully connected to that end of it, and I'm the kind of person that's just really interested in tinkering with shit and figuring out what's not working well and why it's not working well and trying to make it work better and listening to the my peers as to what they need and understanding what I need in tattooing and R&D. Just
awesome.
And
then Jamie, social media.
Yep. My wife Jamie takes care of most of the social media for Good Guy, and it's just a nice big family atmosphere.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Top 5.
Oh, again? Are you checking this with the original one to see if I name the same people?
What original one?
Well, we interviewed him at the convention.
Yeah.
We did a short one at the convention.
Did we?
Yeah. Or was it? Or no,
it wasn't just me.
Yeah, that was
when we were doing the mini ones.
Yeah.
Well, top 5. I'm going to change it.
It can change.
I wasn't sure if I was going to answer this question.
Just go back and listen to the original one and let those guys know they all suck now.
Yeah, totally.
So Henning for sure would be one. Let me think.
You don't have to say it just because they're in town.
No,
this isn't going to air till later.
I have 3/4 of my body covered in his work for sure. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Who else? I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that.
Well, we don't have that much time. It's like now. We'll post it up later.
Chris O'Donnell's always been a super, a good favorite of mine. I've always loved his stuff, that style of tattooing. And then I think I'll switch up some of the last ones. I mean, Dave C has always been a favorite. Yeah. Got a sleeve from him. Who else? Man, it's hard to go through the Rolodex and pick through it because there's so many good ones. Okay, I'll give you one from a local. Maybe I'll do a couple local. I guess Alberta tattooers. Scott Resnick.
Yeah, Scott.
Yeah, Scott. Crusher.
Yeah,
we gotta get Scott on.
Yeah.
Cool tattoos.
Yeah,
super cool stuff.
Yeah. Super cool guy.
Yeah,
I'll show up at his shop. He's literally 6 blocks from me, and I still haven't seen his big shop. Really? Yeah, he showed up at my shop a few weeks ago when Kevin was there working, and I had just left, so I missed him. But yeah, so yeah.
And then who's last, eh? I don't know.
You said a couple Albertans, so you had someone in mind.
Now I just got to go back and figure out who it was. Favorites. Who else is down here that's doing cool stuff like that? I mean,
Steve Bad.
Yeah, man, his stuff's awesome. He's a sleeper too. He's one that doesn't get mentioned enough.
Got mentioned yesterday though, didn't he?
Yeah. By me.
Yeah, I thought
we were talking about people that don't really know and stuff, and we were talking about Mike Roper and how he has zero interest in putting himself out there. Not just even social media, just putting himself out there.
He is the Canadian Mike Roper for sure.
And so we talked about that with Trev. You know, it's like I wish I could see more of Steve's work. You know, it's because I know there's so much of it fucking out there, but you get the little glimpses on the Armor King or Armorclad Labs.
Right.
Instagram is like, woo, nice.
And Gagne.
Gagne, nice.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, sweet. He also got mentioned yesterday, and then Trev said, "Who?"
So he didn't know.
Yeah, no,
It was awesome.
He's a technician.
Yeah, his tattoos are so
Mr.
fucking clean.
Yeah.
He's such a cerebral tattooer too. Like when we interviewed him, I couldn't believe how much he studies tattooing and like figures it out. You know, where most of us are like just hoping it just clicks one day. He's like, totally like, no, I'm figuring this problem out.
He's obsessive with that.
Yeah,
Which is awesome.
yeah. It's like when he put out his like his glass, the gold leaf glass stuff, all that stuff.
Yeah.
First thing I did was text him, and I was like, "How much fucking did you break and waste?" Because that's again, a lot of people don't realize. Like Ryan doesn't put anything out until he has fucking worked. Most tattooers, a lot of us don't put anything out until we figured it out, right? Some will, but like Ryan will work on that shit for a year, 2 years, because he's also self-hating a lot of the times when that stuff comes. So when that stuff comes out and it's like as perfect as it is, that was a process for that guy, man.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about social media, though. That's how you see. You always see the successes. You never see the failures, right?
Yeah.
And we all walk around with the failures inside.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Well, it's like when I was with Lucas at Classic and he was thinking of getting somebody. I'm like, oh, you should reach out to Gagne. And he was like, oh, he just started at Steve Pieces. I'm like, yeah, but I know he's, you know, it's not his shop. It's not like a place for him, right?
Yeah.
And so he reached out to Ryan. And then when Ryan came, I was like stoked. And then I'm like thinking like, he's so busy. He does so much stuff, but he learned so early on how to curate his work.
Yeah.
And how he was able to like slow roll the release where I was like, he's like, yeah, how many tattoo like once or twice a week? I'm like, what? Like back then. And I was like, oh, crazy. You know, so he's always been very methodical and cerebral and thoughtful about what he does and how he puts it out there and presents it to people and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really
Awesome.
enjoy that guy.
Yeah, and it just shows like how we know him, right? That's why his work is the way it is.
For sure.
Right.
Which, I mean, as an outside entity, just seeing things, through Instagram and that kind of shit, you only get the highlights, so you never see the truth, behind what's going on.
Yeah. How many tattoos he would do a week and not post?
Oh yeah.
Right. He's got so much shit up in his fucking shop where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see that finished. Oh, it's finished. Can I see it? Nope. Because he doesn't like a fucking quarter size area of it. And it's just like, come on, man.
Yeah, and
like,
honestly,
it's probably still better than 90% of whatever it is.
Honestly, I kind of spoke to that a little bit just briefly online, like on Instagram a couple of weeks ago. I don't think everything needs to be
It doesn't.
on the internet.
No, it doesn't need to be on the internet, but he can still show me.
Yeah. I think
Text that shit to me.
there's a lot of pressure that's like that we probably put on ourselves to put shit like that out there and to be like constant and consistent and always be posting and always be sharing all that kind of stuff. But I think it steals a lot.
I don't feel that pressure.
No.
I feel I have trouble with my clients. I feel for them because I know the clients get excited about it. So I never address it with them because I don't want to have the conversation. But I don't feel the pressure to put stuff up at all.
Right.
And that just comes back to, it's not like I don't want to be out there. That's more like what I find special about tattooing and always have is what happens right there with my client. I feel like when I post it, it doesn't come close to the experience that I had and they had. It's like, so I don't have any, there's just no interest. It's like,
I have changed my phone and set up so many times. I just suck at taking photos anyway. So half the time I'll put something up and it's just like, well, that looks horrible compared to what it is in person. Ollie XXX, when he came to Classic Tattoo that one time, he was like, I tell everybody you're a good tattooer, and then I show them a photo of your tattoos, and they don't believe me. Yeah. Well, it's like, whatever.
Yeah. Just go back in time and do what Bill used to do with his portfolio.
Yeah, the Polaroid and the magnifying glass.
And take a Polaroid of it and then do an Instagram.
No, it was a big piece of glass.
Oh, that's
big.
It was like
and he would have the customer hold it.
Right.
And then he would stand like 10 feet away and take the Polaroid and then put it in the portfolio.
Like one of those things you see on the back of an RV or something.
Yes.
Bubbles.
Yeah.
Crazy.
His portfolio got stolen. And he was very upset about it. And he had to rebuild a portfolio and he didn't want to. So that was his way of being passive aggressive in rebuilding a portfolio that was stolen. Yeah.
Can you imagine if Instagram hacked and all those tattooers' photos were fucking taken away?
Well, dude, I started
crisis that people would have.
My last IG that I had. It wasn't public for the longest time because it's where I just started storing all of my photos.
Right.
And then when I was moving to go work at Lady Luck with Mike Pryor, shout out Mike Pryor, in Langley, I was like, I kind of need, because I didn't have a tattoo Instagram anymore. Right. I just had Champion for the shop, and I was like, I kind of need a personal one. So I went in and deleted everything that wasn't a tattoo. And made it, and then I named it Silver Kitsune Tattoo because I was like, because I can't remember what it was. It was something stupid. And then I made it unprivate. And then Instagram deleted me, and I lost all those photos.
What did you?
I think I said retard in a story post. But I got no warning. I got no nothing. Like, I woke up in the morning, and my account was gone. Yeah. I tried petitioning it, nothing, whatever. And it's like, I'm like, okay. Anyways, but I don't have any backups of those photos. Like, the whole point of that was to have all them on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is that I said the word retarded in reference to myself. Like, I posted something into my story and called myself retarded. Somebody didn't like that. So
yeah. They cared about you. They didn't think you were.
Then they don't know me.
It's true.
You know? Like, but yeah, so I lost all those photos. And for a moment, I was like, oh no. Like, some of my best tattoos that I've ever done are gone now. Yeah. And then afterwards,
they're still out there though.
That's the thing. And then I realized, I was like, but nobody cares anyway.
That's the better.
Nobody cares. I care.
No one's scrolling through, right? Like, if they go to your profile, you're lucky if they see the first 6 photos.
Exactly. Nobody was back scrolling to my favorite tattoo that I posted. You know, nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. You know, like, I like going back and scrolling. I like also being that guy that'll like back scroll a bunch and then like one picture.
Totally. just to mess with somebody.
Stuck.
Yeah.
Someone's like, they like that picture.
Yeah.
They really dug for that.
That's 2.5 years ago.
Yeah. And don't like anything else.
Yeah. No, then they go check out your profile.
Yeah. Like, who is this fucker? Yeah.
That's how you get followers.
Yeah.
Tattoo followers.
But I guess it's a strange currency to get caught up in. So
it is.
I think that's kind of the moral of that is like just tattoo for tattooing. You know, obviously we need a way to collect people and have them see what we're doing.
Yeah.
When it's, you know, just the way things are now, but yeah.
I've always saw it as a portfolio. Yeah, it's crazy to see what people are doing now. Like, the younger generation has obviously grown up with influencers,
right?
So they see Instagram as a media tool, like
to
try to gain a following based on their personality.
But then, you know, then the powers that be that own it, they start directing how you have to act to get traction, totally. Right? So the new algorithm is like, well, if you're not doing this, nobody's going to see your shit.
Yeah,
that's like,
crazy.
I won't remember, but that's all bullshit though. People still see you.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't post a reel of you doing something stupid, I'm still going to see your posts if I scroll through my roll of the day kind of thing, right? Same as like everybody freaked out and was like, subscribe, you're never going to see me again if you don't subscribe. It's like, I subscribed to nobody and I still see all the shit I don't want to see that I follow and don't follow. It's all still there.
And you can go to the top corner, hit the little tab, and just if you hit the following, then you just see the people you're following.
That's right.
That's what your feed becomes
chronologically.
Yeah. right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's no different when it's like, oh, if you don't do this or whatever, they're gonna do this. No, they're not. None of that's real. That is all just to actually shape that algorithm for other companies' use. Instagram doesn't care.
Yeah, totally.
Instagram does not care if you're posting reels or anything else, but advertisers and other people do.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, just tattoo.
Yep.
yeah. Or don't.
Or don't.
Or don't. Yeah, totally. Yeah, you can leave.
Yeah.
Doors
Tattoo
open.
or don't.
Doors open.
It's no different today than it was when I started. There was
I believe that.
not good tattooers. There was good tattooers, and there was some great tattooers.
Yeah.
Each pool is just much larger now.
Yeah.
That's it. So
Cool.
I've always been safe, sitting right in the middle. I'm just an okay tattooer. That's it. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's fun.
Longest one yet?
Really?
Yeah.
No, how long has it been?
2 hours and 10 minutes.
Holy fuck.
Setting records.
You really dragged out that beginning part about. We didn't say highlights.
Lots to say.
No, you stayed like.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. You didn't do any of your Lucas freezes like that, and then your nervous laugh, and then, oh yeah.
It's probably got something to do with not smoking weed anymore, honestly.
Oh, nice.
The best thing I ever did was give that up.
Yeah, it's been a shit since the last time I did that was oh man, almost a year ago.
Oh shit. Been like 8 years for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Actually, I smoked weed once in there on a fishing trip and fucking lost my shit. It was just like, how did I smoke this every day? Like, totally fucking,
well, on that side of things, I mean, not smoking it now versus going back to the beginning of my career. I remember when I finally got hired at Eddie's shop, he took me into the back room, which he was had as his office in the shop. It was underneath the mezzanine in the back of the shop, which later became the piercing room. And he's like, "Okay, come back. We got to talk about some stuff. We're going to figure this out. I'm going to run you through the rules, all that kind of stuff." And I sit down. I was pretty nervous. I'm 23 years old, and he's sketchy, kind of I don't know. He was a biker dude and all that kind of stuff. And I knew he was in bad shit, but he was just hanging out at the wizard's den kind of thing, right? He was you respected the tattooer, the guy that was gonna.
the circus leader.
Yeah.
The ringmaster.
The circus leader, that's right. Anyways, he takes me back. He's like, "Gotta sit down, gotta talk about some stuff." And he's like, "All right, so." Sits down on his side. I'm sitting on his chair on the other side. I'm kind of sweating a little bit. I'm like, what is this all about? He's like, "Okay, so there's some rules at the shop." He's like, "First thing first," he's like, "we have a very strict drug policy here." I was like, "Okay." And he's like, he pulls his drawer open in his desk, and he reaches in and he pulls out a couple joints and he throws one at me, and he's like, "If you're not high, you're fired." I was like, "Oh, okay." Right. So I got to learn how to tattoo fucking stone. That's going to be great. And I did. And I mean, probably first 5 years of tattooing was everybody knew. He would go for safety breaks 3 times a tattoo. He'd go out and go for a ride in his van around the industrial area with his client, and they'd come back
It was so common back then.
But we smoked weed all day while we were working, before and after.
Yeah.
And our clients did with us, and
That was the
I think back to
experience,
that
right?
now, and I'm like, I could not imagine.
I couldn't do it.
No, I'd have a panic attack in the first 2 minutes.
For sure. Totally.
No. That's hilarious.
That shop was a lot of fun. There were some wild times in that place. Wild times. Saw a guy almost drive his motorcycle through the wall in the back of the shop.
I remember you telling me
Yeah. This guy named Mike, we called him Morbid.
Morbid.
Yeah, he was obsessed with skulls. He was like, he had his Harley so broed out with skulls, it was like he couldn't find another place to put one on. And I remember I was hanging out at the shop late one night, and there was like this archway in the front entrance to the shop, and Ed had like kind of built it, and he made it look like rock, and I told him, I was like, oh, I can paint that and make it look like stone if you want. Like I can, I'll spend some time on it if you don't mind. Just buy me some paint and I'll hang out and fix it up for you. So he's like, yeah, for sure, no problem. And his birthday was in the summer. I think his birthday was in July sometime. Can't remember exactly the date. But Eddie and his buddy Chuck and Morbid, his second office was the strip club. So they're at his office all day for his birthday. And later in the day, shops closed. It's probably like 7, 8 o'clock at night, summertime, so it's still hot out, it's still nice and bright out. All of a sudden, Morbid fucking shows up outside the shop on his bike, and then Eddie's van comes rolling in. He drove like one of those like Astro vans or something like that, right? Like it was some or Dodge Caravan. That's what it was like, but the older like kind of squared ones. Rolls up and it's got smoke curling out of the windows, and they get out and I remember Mike was pretty loose by then. You could tell he was like probably a dozen beers deep at that time. It's like, gotta put the bike in the shop for the night. We're going downtown. So, okay. Well, he's got this giant bagger with these huge handlebars and shit on it and bags, and it's a formidable bike, right? And he's like, we're going to bring it in the shop, move all this shit out of the way. So I move all my ladders and everything. And that's kind of where the front entrance to the shop was. There's like a couple of couches, big coffee table. So I was like, here, let me just get the ladders down out of the way and move my paint to the side, push the coffee table out of the way a little bit. And then I just sat there and watched these three-quarters drunk guys try to wrestle this bike through the doorway. They're getting it sideways and one handlebar in, and then on the other side, it took them like 20 minutes to get it in. And finally, so they get it in the shop, and then Mike smiles and he jumps back on it, and he's like, I think we got to do a little blackie for Ed for his birthday in here, and fires it up, and he's trying to do a brake stand in the shop. And he's like, whap, and he's pushing the front tire ahead, and then he backs up and hits it, opens it up again, and pushes the front tire ahead. Well, he didn't know 3 days prior to this, we just had the whole shop floor cut and waxed.
That tire wasn't
so it's like a layer of grease on top of that for tires. Anyways, it was like glass. It was perfect. Well, he backs up one more time, and he boots the coffee table out of the way and just opens it right up, and it gets the tire going, and he's smiling, and he looks over at me, and all of a sudden the bike just hooked up, and he shot across the shop and straight into the wall. Went through, like, we had a big clothing rack there. There was t-shirts everywhere. Ed's desk got thrown out of the way, and so bike hits the wall. The only reason he didn't go through it was kind of 50s Coke machine that I've inherited from my dad from the collection stuff that he used to have. I had it in the scrub room. We used it for a beer fridge in the shop, and it was on the other side of the wall, and he happened to just line up exactly with where that Coke machine was. And it pushed that thing about 5 feet across the room on the other side. And it's heavy. It's like 400 pounds. It's like from the 50s. It's made out of like steel.
Yeah, real steel.
Yeah.
He's lucky it moved. If it hadn't moved, he would have fucking off the bike.
If it wasn't there, it's a steel stud and drywall wall. He would have just blasted right through that. And that was a regular day.
Yeah. Is that why you were painting? Because it happened like the week before.
It was great getting to know Curly and this amazing guy that tattooed with one arm. The customer had to stretch his own skin.
So I did get blood poisoning from him twice. Yeah, twice.
Ed Hardy brought this whole Japanese influence into American tattooing.
Once Dave Shore come onto the scene, it was like tattooing completely changed.
If anybody could say anything about greaseball Japanese, it's fucking Dave Shore.
Salty, piratey, bikery, just hard not to do.
Man, he'd pull in on his chopper with the tattoos and the girls, and I mean, he was just like so cool, man.
He captured vulgarity and pleasure and insanity and recklessness.
Tattooer in the 80s or 70s, just not the same, you had to be a tough guy.
I was scared shitless. Even though I was kind of a biker guy, these were bigger biker guys,
I'm not totally sure you could paint the picture accurately to somebody now getting into tattooing about what it was like then. And the only reason I would say, or I feel that way, though, is because they might not believe you.
We had the limo waiting for him with all the lines of blow lined up at the airport. This is the way we do it in Canada.
In the 80s, 90s, Paul Jeffries was like the king of tattooing. It wasn't just in Canada.
Like, am I supposed to stop tattooing? Because if this is what I'm supposed to aspire to, it's not gonna happen.
Each one of these old masters influenced groups of tattooers, who in turn influenced other groups of tattooers.
The True North Strong Tattoo Book. This is a massive tattoo encyclopedia of Canadian tattooers. 350 pages. It's an 11 by 17 coffee table format. Shawn and Dan worked tirelessly to get this thing out, and sadly it never made it to print, so it's available for free download at theholdfastsocialclub.com and championtattoo.ca.